The blizzard should have killed her. Instead, it brought them together and awakened something far more dangerous. When diner manager Maya Carter pulled a half-frozen stranger from a snowdrift, she thought she was saving one life. She didn't know she was igniting a war, hidden evidence, deadly enemies, a past that refuses to stay buried. Now, trapped in her own cafe with nowhere to run, Maya must face the truth. Some storms don't just pass. They reveal everything you've been hiding. Stay until the end to see how one woman's courage changed everything. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The wind hit like a freight train made of ice and fury. Maya Carter stood at the window of the Bluebird Diner, watching the world disappear into white. She'd lived through bad winters before. 17 years in Montana taught you to respect the cold. But this was different. This was the kind of storm that erased roads, buried cars, turned familiar landscapes into hostile terrain where nothing looked the way it should. The neon open sign flickered above her, casting red and blue shadows across the empty booths. Stupid to keep it on. Stupider to stay open. But Maya had learned a long time ago that sometimes the stupid choice was the right one, especially when people needed somewhere warm to wait out the end of the world. You're crazy, you know that? Jess wiped down the counter for the third time in an hour, her nervous energy manifesting in aggressive cleaning. At 22, she still had that invincibility complex that made her think storms were exciting rather than deadly. Nobody's coming out in this. We should close up, head home before it gets worse. It's already worse. Maya didn't turn from the window. And if someone does come, if their car breaks down or they slide off the road, they'll need somewhere to go. So you're playing hero? I'm keeping the coffee hot. It wasn't heroism. Maya didn't do heroism anymore. She'd tried that once, in another life, with another name, and it had nearly gotten her killed. These days, she kept her head down, poured coffee, flipped burgers, and pretended that quiet was the same thing as safe. The diner had been her sanctuary for 3 years now. A nothing little roadside spot on Highway 87, halfway between anywhere and nowhere, where the most exciting thing that happened was when old Pete argued about the day's crossword. The kind of place where you could vanish into routine, where yesterday looked exactly like tomorrow, where nothing ever changed. She should have known it couldn't last. The phone rang, shrill against the howling wind. Jess grabbed it. Bluebird Diner, Yeah, I know it's insane, but she won't close. A pause. Okay, I'll tell her. She hung up. That was Marcus. Sheriff's Department is advising everyone to shelter in place. Roads are completely gone. Good thing we're already in place then. Maya. I'm not closing, Jess. Argument's over. Jess threw the towel down. Fine. But when we freeze to death because the power goes out and we're stuck here overnight, I'm haunting you first. Fair enough. The truth was, Maya didn't entirely understand it herself. This compulsion to keep the light on, to stay ready, to be available for whoever might need shelter. Maybe it was some leftover instinct from before, when she'd believed in things like duty and justice and doing the right thing even when it cost you everything. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe she just couldn't stand the idea of someone being out there in the cold, desperate, with nowhere to go. She knew what that felt like. The window had almost completely iced over when she saw it. A shape moving through the white, too solid to be windblown snow, too deliberate to be debris. Jess? What? Someone's out there. They both pressed close to the glass. Through the crystalline distortion, Maya could make out a figure stumbling toward them, bent nearly double against the wind, moving with the jerky, uncoordinated movements of someone at the edge of their endurance. Oh my God! Jess was already moving toward the door. Wait! But she was gone, the blast of Arctic air hitting Maya like a physical blow as Jess shoved through the entrance. Maya grabbed her own coat and followed. The cold was shocking, the kind of cold that stopped your breath, that made your eyes water instantly, that found every gap in your clothing and drove icy fingers through to your skin. The wind roared in her ears, drowning out everything else. She could barely see 3 feet ahead. Here! Jess's shout barely carried. She's right here! Together, they grabbed the figure. Definitely a woman, Maya registered, older, small, and half carried, half dragged her toward the door. The woman's legs kept trying to work, but she was hypothermic, her body no longer fully under her control. Her lips were blue. Ice had formed in her hair. They got her inside, and the door slammed shut behind them, cutting off the wind with startling suddenness. The diner felt almost tropical by comparison. "Get blankets," Maya ordered, already easing the woman into the nearest booth. "And hot water, not too hot. Jess, move." Training kicked in, the same training she'd told herself she'd forgotten. The skills from a life she'd left behind. Assess the patient. Remove wet clothing. Warm the core first, extremities later. Don't warm too fast or you'll send her into shock. She'd done this before, in other circumstances, in a different context, when saving lives had been part of her job description. The woman was conscious but disoriented, mumbling something Maya couldn't quite make out. Italian, maybe? Her clothes were expensive. Maya noticed that even soaked and frozen, the wool coat was high quality, the leather boots handmade, not your typical stranded motorist. "Hey," Maya kept her voice gentle but firm. "Hey, can you hear me? You're safe now. You're inside. We're going to get you warm." The woman's eyes focused on her, and for a moment Maya saw something that made her pause. A sharpness beneath the confusion, an intelligence that hypothermia couldn't quite drown. "My car." The woman's voice was raspy, accented. "It went off. I tried to walk." "Don't worry about the car. Just stay still." Jess returned with an armful of blankets and the electric kettle they kept in back. Maya wrapped the woman carefully, then held a mug of lukewarm water to her lips. The woman drank greedily, slower, small sips. It took 20 minutes before the shivering decreased from violent to merely constant. Color started returning to the woman's face, revealing elegant features, probably in her 70s, with the kind of bone structure that suggested she'd been stunning in her youth. Still was, in a dignified way. "Thank you." The words came clearer now. I was certain." "You're lucky you made it here?" Maya sat across from her. "Another 10 minutes out there and we'd be having a very different conversation." "Luck." The woman smiled faintly. "My grandson would say I don't believe in luck. Smart grandson. Arrogant grandson, but yes, also smart." She took another sip of water. "I am Isabella. Isabella Vieri." The name meant nothing to Maya. Should it? The woman said it like it was supposed to be significant. "Maya Carter. This is Jess." Jess waved from behind the counter, where she'd retreated to make actual coffee. "The good stuff, not the usual diner swill. You have my deepest gratitude, Miss Carter. Both of you." Isabella's English was perfect, but the Italian accent wrapped around the words like silk. "I fear I was quite foolish. The weather report said the storm would not arrive until evening. I thought I had time." "Where were you headed?" Something flickered across Isabella's face. "To see someone. Someone I should have visited long ago." She paused. "My grandson. We have been estranged." There was a story there, Maya could tell. A complicated one, but she didn't push. Everyone had their complications. "Well, you're not going anywhere tonight," Jess announced, bringing over 3 mugs of coffee. "Sheriff says the roads won't be passable until morning at the earliest. We're all stuck here." "I should call him," Isabella said suddenly. "Adrian, he will be worried." "Phone's on the wall," Maya pointed. Isabella stood, still wrapped in blankets, and made her way to the payphone. Maya watched her dial, then speak in rapid Italian. Even without understanding the words, Maya could hear the emotion, relief, defensiveness, affection, frustration, all tangled together in a way that spoke to years of complicated family dynamics. "He is coming," Isabella said when she hung up. "I told him not to, that it is too dangerous, but he will not listen. He never listens." "Coming from where?" "Billings. About 60 miles. Jess choked on her coffee. 60 miles? In this? Is he insane? Isabella smiled, a real smile this time. Determined. Adrian does not accept that anything is impossible. It is both his greatest strength and his most significant flaw. Maya felt something cold that had nothing to do with the storm. 60 miles in a blizzard required either stupidity or resources. The kind of resources that came with money, power, the ability to make things happen regardless of obstacles. The kind of resources that drew attention. She pushed the thought away. Paranoia was useful, but you couldn't let it run your life. This was just a concerned grandson, nothing more. Well, he's going to be a while, even if he does make it, Maya said. Might as well get comfortable. You hungry? Starving, actually. Maya went behind the counter and fired up the grill. Comfort food seemed appropriate. Grilled cheese, tomato soup, nothing fancy but warm and filling. Jess put on music, some old Fleetwood Mac that barely competed with the wind outside. As Maya cooked, she watched Isabella in the reflection of the chrome napkin dispenser. The older woman had pulled out a phone, expensive, latest model, and was typing something. Her fingers moved with the facility of someone much younger, and there was a slight frown on her face that suggested whatever she was reading wasn't good news. Everything okay? Maya slid the sandwich across the counter. Oh yes, just business. Isabella put the phone away. Though it seems this storm is causing chaos everywhere. Accidents, power outages, road closures. The entire region is paralyzed. Weather doesn't care about our plans. No, it certainly does not. Isabella took a bite of the sandwich and closed her eyes. This is wonderful, simple, but wonderful. They ate in companionable silence for a while. Outside, the storm raged on, turning the world into an undifferentiated mass of white and gray. Maya had lived through bad weather before, but something about this felt different, ominous, like the universe was holding its breath, waiting for something. She'd learned to trust that instinct. It had kept her alive. So what do you do, Isabella? Jess asked, perched on a stool with her own sandwich. When you're not wandering into blizzards, I mean. I am retired now, but I used to work in import/export. Very boring, really. Import/export. The phrase that covered everything from legitimate business to the kind of operations that didn't bear close examination. Maya had heard it before, in her old life, usually from people who were lying. But everyone had secrets. Maya certainly did. Who was she to judge? The phone rang again. Bluebird Diner, Jess answered. Oh, hey, Tom. Yeah, we're fine. Still open. Can you believe it? Maya's being stubborn as usual. She listened. Wait, what? You're serious? Maya looked up from wiping down the grill. Jess's expression had changed, humor draining away into something more serious. Okay, yeah. Thanks for the heads up. She hung up slowly. What? That was Tom from the gas station down the road. He's closing up, heading home. But he said there's a car been parked in his lot for the last hour. Black SUV, tinted windows, just sitting there running. No one's gotten out. The cold feeling returned, stronger this time. Could just be someone waiting out the storm. That's what Tom thought. But then two more showed up. Same kind of vehicle. They're all just sitting there. Isabella had gone very still. Maya met her eyes. The older woman's expression was carefully neutral, but Maya recognized it. She'd worn that same expression herself enough times. The look of someone calculating odds, assessing threats, deciding how much truth to share. Isabella, Maya said quietly, is there something you need to tell me? For a long moment, Isabella didn't answer. Then she sighed, and suddenly she looked every one of her 70-some years. I had hoped, she said softly, that I would have more time, that I could reach Adrian before... She trailed off. But perhaps it does not matter. Perhaps it was always going to end this way. And what way? Before Isabella could answer, headlights cut through the white outside. Not from the direction of the gas station, but from the highway. A vehicle moving fast, too fast for conditions, skidding slightly as it pulled into the parking lot. The door opened and a man stepped out. Even through the snow and ice-distorted glass, Maya could see he was tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of controlled precision that spoke to either military training or serious money. Probably both. He wore a long black coat that whipped around him in the wind, and he crossed to the diner door like the storm was a minor inconvenience rather than a lethal threat. The door opened. Cold air and snow swirled in, and Maya's careful, quiet, invisible life ended. Adrian Vieri was not what she expected. She'd pictured someone older, softer, someone who matched Isabella's elegant sophistication. Instead, he looked like he'd been carved from granite and bad intentions. Maybe 40, with dark hair and darker eyes, a jaw that looked designed for clenching, and the kind of presence that sucked the air out of the room. He scanned the diner in one quick, comprehensive sweep. Threat assessment, Maya recognized, the same thing she'd done countless times herself before his gaze locked on Isabella. Nonna, His voice was deep, rough. "What the hell were you thinking?" Isabella stood, letting the blankets fall. "Adrian, I told you not to come. And I told you that this was a bad idea." He switched to Italian, rapid fire, and Isabella responded in kind. Maya didn't need to understand the words to know it was an argument they'd had before. Jess sidled over to Maya. "Well, he's intense," she whispered. That was one word for it. Maya watched Adrian gesture sharply, watched Isabella's chin lift in defiance, and felt the familiar weight of danger settling on her shoulders. This man was used to control, to getting his way, to having people jump when he spoke, and he was scared. She could see it under the anger, the fear that came from almost losing someone you loved. But there was something else too, something harder. He kept glancing at the windows, at the door, his attention divided in a way that suggested he wasn't just worried about his grandmother, he was worried about something else. The argument concluded. Adrian turned to Maya and Jess, and his expression shifted into something more controlled, more polite, though it sat on him like an ill-fitting suit. "I apologize," he said. "My grandmother has a talent for difficult situations. Thank you for helping her." Just did what anyone would do. His eyes assessed her, and Maya had the uncomfortable feeling of being read, evaluated, filed away. Not anyone. Most people would have stayed inside. "Most people aren't as stupid as me." She kept her tone light, but she was assessing him right back. Expensive watch, handmade shoes, currently being ruined by snow. Coat that probably cost more than her car. But it was the way he carried himself that really told the story. This was someone who gave orders and expected them to be followed. "Nevertheless, you have my gratitude." He pulled out a wallet. "Please, let me... We don't want your money." The bluntness of Jess's interruption made Adrian pause. He looked at her, then back to Maya, and something almost like amusement crossed his face. "I meant no offense." "None taken," Maya said smoothly. "But she's right. Your grandmother needed help. We helped. That's the end of it." "I see." He pocketed the wallet. "Then perhaps you would allow me to wait out this storm here. I assume my grandmother's car is somewhere in a ditch." 2 miles back," Isabella confirmed. "It is likely buried by now." "Of course it is." Adrian shrugged out of his coat, revealing an expensive suit underneath. Even rumpled and damp, he looked like he'd stepped out of a boardroom. "I do not suppose there is coffee." "Always." Maya moved behind the counter, grateful for something to do with her hands. As she poured, she watched Adrian settle into the booth across from Isabella, watched the way they looked at each other, affection and frustration and something that looked like relief. Family. Complicated, messy, but real. She handed him the mug. "Thank you, Ms. Maya." "Just Maya." "Well, just Maya, I am in your debt." He took a sip, and genuine surprise crossed his face. "This is excellent. Secrets in the beans. You buy cheap coffee, you get cheap results." A philosophy applicable to many things. He glanced around the diner, taking in the worn booths, the vintage signs, the general air of a place that had seen better days but refused to quit. "How long have you run this establishment?" 3 years. "And before that?" The question was casual, conversational, but Maya felt the weight of it. People like Adrian Vieri didn't make small talk. Every question served a purpose. "Before that, I was somewhere else, doing something else." She met his eyes steadily. "Not much of a story." "I find that hard to believe. Everyone has a story." "Maybe I'm boring." Also hard to believe. They were interrupted by Jess's phone buzzing. She checked it, frowned, then headed to the back. "I need to take this." Which left Maya alone with the Vieris. Grandmother and grandson had resumed their conversation in Italian, though at a lower volume now. Maya busied herself with unnecessary cleaning, trying not to obviously eavesdrop on a language she didn't speak anyway. But she was aware of Adrian in a way that made her uncomfortable. He filled the space somehow, his presence too large for the small diner, and he kept looking at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention, the same assessing look he'd given when he first arrived, like he was trying to figure her out. Good luck with that, she thought. She'd spent 3 years becoming forgettable, unremarkable, invisible. Just another diner manager in a nothing town, with no past worth investigating and no future worth discussing. Except except she had the creeping feeling that her careful invisibility was about to fail. Jess came back, her face pale. That was my roommate. She says there's something weird happening in town, police activity, lots of it. And those SUVs? There are more of them now. She counted 6. Maya's stomach dropped. 6? Isabella's voice was sharp. Yeah, all parked at different spots, but all watching the highway, like they're waiting for something. Jess looked scared now. What the hell's going on? Adrian stood, pulling out his phone. He dialed, waited, his expression growing darker when no one answered. He tried another number. Same result. Adrian? Isabella's voice carried a warning. It seems we have a problem, Nona. What kind of problem? Maya asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Adrian turned to her and the polite mask was gone now. What remained was something colder, harder, more honest. The kind where we are not the only ones who knew my grandmother would be traveling this route today. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. You're saying someone's looking for her, Maya said. Statement, not question. I am saying someone has been looking for her for quite some time. And today, they found her. Then we call the police. And tell them what? That there are vehicles parked in public spaces? Adrian shook his head. Besides, I suspect the police will not be much help. The way he said it made Maya's skin crawl. Why not? Because some of them are likely already bought. Jess made a small sound of distress. This is insane. We should just leave. All of us. Get out of here. In this storm, Isabella gestured to the windows. We would freeze before we made it a mile. And if we did survive, Adrian added grimly, we would be much easier targets on an empty road than we are here. Maya's mind was racing, pulling up old protocols, old training, assess the situation, identify the threat, protect the principal, secure the location. She thought she was done with all of this, but apparently muscle memory didn't care what you wanted. Okay, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Okay, let's say you're right and someone's watching the place. What do they want? Adrian and Isabella exchanged a look. That, Adrian said slowly, is complicated. Then uncomplicate it. Another look, then Isabella sighed. I was not entirely truthful before, about being retired. She folded her hands on the table. My family has been involved in certain businesses for several generations. Import and export, yes, but also other ventures, some legal, some less so. Maya had suspected as much, but having it confirmed still hit differently. And these people in the SUVs? Competitors, enemies, people who believe I have something they want. Isabella's expression was calm, almost serene. They are correct, as it happens. Nona, Adrian warned. She deserves to know. We have brought danger to her door. The least we owe her is honesty. You don't owe me anything, Maya said, except to get the hell out of my diner before whatever this is lands on me. I'm afraid it is too late for that. Isabella's eyes were kind but unyielding. The moment you pulled me from that snowbank, you became involved. These are not people who leave loose ends. The cold feeling had become a solid block of ice in Maya's chest. This was everything she'd been hiding from for 3 years. Everything she'd run from, changed her name to escape, buried herself in the middle of nowhere to avoid. And now it had found her anyway. What do they want? She asked again. Information, Adrian said. Evidence. Proof of transactions that certain very powerful people would prefer remained hidden. And you have this proof? Isabella smiled. Not on me, if that is what you are asking. I am old, not foolish. Then what? The lights went out. Complete darkness, sudden and absolute. The hum of the refrigerator died. The warm glow of the vintage signs vanished. Even the exit signs went black. Everyone stay calm, Maya said automatically, reaching for the flashlight she kept under the counter. The beam cut through the darkness, catching Jess's wide eyes, Isabella's calm face, Adrian's tense posture as he moved to the window. The whole street is dark, he reported. Not just us. Could be the storm, Jess said hopefully. Power lines go down all the time in weather like this. Could be. But Maya didn't believe it, and from Adrian's expression, neither did he. She swept the flashlight around the diner. Emergency exit in the back, check. Front door, check. Windows. She paused. Was that movement out there? Hard to tell with the snow, but she could have sworn. We need to get away from the windows, she said. Agreed. Adrian was already moving, guiding Isabella toward the back. Is there another way out of here? Kitchen door, but it opens into the parking lot. We'd be exposed. Better than staying here. He looked at her, and for a moment the mask slipped entirely, revealing someone who was scared but functioning, someone who'd made hard choices before and would make them again. Someone, Maya realized with a jolt, not that different from herself. You have done this before. I can see it. Whatever you were before you became a diner manager, you have training. It wasn't a question, and there didn't seem much point in denying it. Yeah, she said, I have training. Then trust it. What do we do? Before she could answer, the front door opened. A figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the white storm. Tall, heavily built, wearing tactical gear that was definitely not standard winter clothing. Behind him, Maya could make out at least two more. The man raised a gun. Nobody move. Time did that weird thing it did in crisis situations, simultaneously speeding up and slowing down, every detail sharp and clear while events seemed to rush past too fast to process. Maya's hand was already moving to the baseball bat she kept under the counter. Jess was dropping to the floor, Adrian was stepping in front of Isabella, and the gunman was tracking all of it with professional calm. I said don't move. He stepped further inside, letting the others follow. 3 of them total, all armed, all moving with the coordination of trained operators. This doesn't have to get ugly. We're just here for the old woman. Like hell, Adrian started, but Isabella put a hand on his arm. It is all right, Caro. Let them say what they came to say. The gunman smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Smart lady. See, we've been looking for you, Mrs. Vieri. You've been very hard to find. I have that effect on people. Funny, but the joke's over. Our employer wants what you took. Give it back. Everyone walks away. Simple. I took nothing that was not already mine. That's not how he sees it. Adrian's hands were flexing at his sides, and Maya could see him calculating odds, considering angles. She caught his eye and gave a tiny shake of her head. 3 armed men, unknown number outside, civilians to protect. The math didn't work. But the gunman was making a mistake. He was too focused on Isabella and Adrian, dismissing Maya and Jess as irrelevant. And his partners had fanned out but not thoroughly cleared the space. Professionals, but not perfect ones. Which meant they could be beaten, if she was willing to risk it. Maya's hand found the bat. Old Louisville slugger, solid wood, good weight. She'd bought it for protection when she first opened the diner, never thinking she'd actually need it. Funny how things worked out. You know what I think? The gunman continued. I think you're bluffing. I think you've got it on you right now, or you know exactly where it is, and one way or another, you're going to tell us. And if I refuse? He gestured with the gun, a casual wave that took in Maya and Jess. Then we start with them. See how long your conscience holds out. That was the moment Maya decided she'd had enough of running. Hey, she said. The gunman looked at her, surprised. What? You forgot something. Yeah, what's that? This. She swung the bat. She wasn't aiming for him, too far away, too alert. Instead, she took out the flashlight sitting on the counter, plunging the diner back into complete darkness. Then she moved. 3 years of quiet had dulled her reflexes a bit, but the training was still there, buried deep in muscle and instinct. She knew this space by heart, could navigate it blind. The gunmen didn't have that advantage. Shouts, the crack of a gunshot, deafeningly loud in the enclosed space, Jess screaming, Adrian yelling something in Italian. Maya dodged left, dropped low, came up behind where she'd last seen the second gunman, and swung the bat with everything she had. It connected with something solid, a grunt of pain. The man went down. More gunfire, muzzle flashes strobing the darkness like lightning. Maya hit the floor, rolled, came up near the booth where Adrian had taken cover with Isabella. She could hear the third gunman moving, trying to flank them. Jess, she shouted, get to the kitchen, now! A whimper, then movement. Good. Get her out of the line of fire. The lead gunman had a flashlight now, the beam sweeping across the diner. It caught Adrian, who was armed. Where the hell had he gotten a gun? And the 2 men exchanged fire. The noise was incredible, physically painful. Maya used the distraction to circle back, coming at the flashlight holder from his blind side. But he was better than she'd thought. He must have heard her somehow, because he spun, the light catching her full in the face, blinding her. "Got you," he said, and raised his weapon. The shot that rang out didn't come from his gun. He staggered, the flashlight dropping, beam going wild. Behind him, Maya could see Isabella standing, small and calm, holding what looked like a tiny Derringer pistol. "You should not threaten people I care about," Isabella said mildly. The gunman dropped. Silence fell, broken only by harsh breathing and the eternal howl of wind outside. Maya's ears rang, her hands shook. Every nerve in her body screamed adrenaline and fear and the sick awareness that she'd almost died. "Everyone okay?" Adrian's voice rough. "I think so," Maya managed. "Jess?" A sob from the kitchen. "I'm here. I'm okay. Oh my God, oh my God. Stay there, don't come out yet." Adrian's flashlight, he'd had one too apparently, clicked on, the beam steadier now. It revealed carnage. 2 men down, one groaning, the other unconscious. The third, the one Isabella had shot, wasn't moving. Adrian checked him methodically, then shook his head. "Dead." Isabella lowered the Derringer with shaking hands. "I did not mean. I aimed for his shoulder." "You saved Maya's life." Adrian holstered his own gun. Seriously, where had that come from? And went to his grandmother. "You did what you had to do." Maya forced herself to her feet. Every instinct screamed to run, to get out, to distance herself from this disaster. But the storm was still raging, and anyway, there was nowhere to run to anymore. Her quiet life was over. The thing she'd been hiding from had found her. And worse, it wasn't over yet. These 3 were just the advance team. "How many more?" she asked. Adrian understood immediately. "At least a dozen, maybe more. They will have heard the shots. Then we need to move. Now." Maya's mind was clicking through options, old training reasserting itself. "Jess, come here!" The girl emerged from the kitchen, tears streaming down her face, but she was functional. "What do we do?" "We get somewhere defensible, somewhere they can't surround us." Maya looked at Adrian. "Your car. How good is it?" "Armored, bulletproof glass, but the roads, forget the roads. We use it as a bunker, at least until we can figure out what to do next." "They will have more vehicles. They can ram us, block us in." "You have a better idea?" He didn't. They moved fast, grabbing coats, Isabella's phone, anything that might be useful. Maya took one last look at her diner, the place that had been her refuge, her hiding spot, her attempt at a normal life, and felt something hard settle in her chest. This was her fault. She'd saved Isabella, yes, but in doing so she'd exposed herself, reminded the world that Maya Carter existed, and now everyone she had tried to protect was in danger. The kitchen door led to the back parking lot. Adrian's vehicle, a massive Range Rover that looked like it could survive a tank assault, was maybe 30 yards away, 30 yards of open ground, with visibility measured in feet and unknown hostiles somewhere in the storm. "I will go first," Adrian said. "Draw fire. You get them to the vehicle." "Like hell," Maya said. "You drive, I cover." Though they locked eyes. 2 people who recognized in each other a willingness to do what was necessary, even when it was hard. "Together, then," Adrian said. "Together?" They burst through the door into the screaming wind and driving snow. Maya had the bat, useless against guns but better than nothing, while Adrian had his weapon drawn. Isabella and Jess huddled between them. 20 yards. Shapes moving in the white, more gunmen, converging. Shouts barely audible over the storm. 10 yards. Gunfire shockingly close. Something struck the ground near Maya's feet, kicking up frozen dirt. 5 yards. Adrian was firing back, controlled bursts. Maya shoved Isabella toward the vehicle, reaching for the door. It was locked. "Adrian!" she screamed. He was there instantly, key fob out. The Range Rover chirped, locks disengaging. Maya yanked the rear door open, practically throwing Isabella and Jess inside, then dove in after them as Adrian slid into the driver's seat. The engine roared to life. Bullets pinged off the armored body, a sound like metallic hail. "Get down!" Adrian threw the vehicle into reverse, gunning it. They shot backward, smashing into something, another vehicle, Maya thought. Then he spun the wheel and they were moving forward, tires fighting for purchase on the ice. More gunfire. The windshield starred but didn't break, bulletproof, as advertised. Adrian drove like he was trying to kill the road, pushing the massive vehicle through snow that would have stopped anything less capable. "Where are we going?" Jess sobbed. Good question. They couldn't outrun the storm, couldn't make it to town, couldn't call for help that wasn't compromised. "There's a service station about 5 miles east," Maya said. "Closed for the winter, but the building's solid. We could ford up there." "They will follow." "Let them. At least we'll see them coming." Adrian nodded and wrenched the wheel, taking them off the highway onto a smaller road. The Range Rover's headlights barely cut through the white, but he drove with reckless confidence, like he could see through the storm. Maybe he could. Maybe when you were used to controlling everything, even nature bent to your will. In the back seat, Isabella had her phone out, typing something with shaking fingers. "Who are you messaging?" Maya asked. "Someone who can help, I hope," as Isabella looked up, and her eyes were hard with determination. "This ends tonight, one way or another, no more running." Maya understood that feeling. She'd been running for 3 years, from a past that had tried to kill her, from people who'd betrayed her, from a truth she'd sworn to protect. And maybe, just maybe, she was tired of running too. The service station emerged from the snow like a ghost, a squat concrete building with boarded windows and a roof thick with ice. Adrian pulled around a back, putting the building between them and the highway. "Everyone out! Move!" They scrambled from the vehicle. Maya tried the service station door, locked. Adrian didn't hesitate. He shot the lock, kicked the door open, and they piled inside. It was dark. It was cold. It smelled like oil and abandonment. But it had walls, and right now, that was enough. Adrian took up position by a window, watching the road. Jess huddled in a corner, crying quietly. Isabella sat with perfect posture on an overturned crate, phone still in hand. And Maya stood in the middle of it all, holding a baseball bat, covered in snow, shaking with cold and adrenaline, and the dawning realization that everything had just changed. Okay, she said. "Now someone needs to tell me what the hell is really going on." Isabella looked at Adrian. Adrian looked at Isabella. Some wordless communication passed between them. Then Isabella nodded. "Very well, but I suspect you will not like it." She met Maya's eyes. "Tell me, have you ever heard of the Valdez cartel?" Maya's blood turned to ice. Yes, she'd heard of them. She'd testified against them 3 years ago when she'd been someone else, when she'd thought justice actually meant something, and they'd nearly killed her for it. "I've heard of them," she said carefully. "Then you know they are dangerous, ruthless, connected at every level, police, judges, politicians." Isabella's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "My family has done business with them for many years, until recently when we discovered they had moved beyond their traditional operations into something far worse." "Worse how?" "Human trafficking, children." Isabella's face could have been carved from ice. "This I could not stomach, so I took something of theirs, something that would prove what they were doing, that would link them to officials in 6 states, that would destroy them utterly if it ever came to light." "You took evidence." "A hard drive. Very small, very comprehensive, enough to put dozens of people in prison for the rest of their lives." She smiled thinly. "Naturally, they want it back." Maya's head spun. "And you brought them here. You led them straight to—" She stopped. "Wait. You knew they were following you. This was deliberate." "Not entirely. I truly was coming to see Adrian, to reconcile, to give him the evidence for safekeeping. But I suspected they might be watching, yes. I thought I could lose them in the storm." Isabella's expression turned rueful. "I underestimated their determination." "So now what? They'll tear this whole area apart looking for you." "Let them." Isabella's phone buzzed. She read the screen and smiled. "Help is coming. People loyal to me, people the cartel does not own. We simply need to survive until they arrive." "How long?" 2 hours. Perhaps less. 2 hours. In a freezing service station, with a dozen armed men hunting them, in the middle of a blizzard. "We're going to die here," Jess whispered. "No," Maya said. The word came out harder than she intended, edged with something she thought she'd left behind. No, we're not. Because she was done running, done hiding, done letting other people dictate her life. 3 years ago, she'd been a federal investigator who'd uncovered corruption that went all the way to the top. She'd gathered evidence, prepared to testify, believed the system would protect her. Instead, they'd tried to kill her. Her own people, the ones who were supposed to have her back. And she'd barely escaped with her life. She'd changed her name, changed her face. Minor surgery, just enough. Changed everything, becoming someone small and forgettable and safe. But Maya Carter was still who she'd always been under the surface. Someone who didn't quit. Someone who fought. And right now, these people, Isabella, who'd risked everything to expose monsters, Adrian, who'd driven through a blizzard to save his grandmother, Jess, who was terrified but still functioning, they needed her to fight. So she would. Adrian, she said, what kind of weapons do you have? He looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. Recognition, understanding. In the vehicle. 2 rifles, 3 handguns, ammunition. He paused. And you? Me? You clearly know what you are doing. So what is your real story, just Maya? Fair question, and maybe it was time to stop lying, at least to these people who were stuck in this nightmare with her. 3 years ago, I worked for the FBI, Financial Crimes Division. I uncovered a money laundering operation that turned out to connect to the Valdez cartel. She kept her voice level, factual. I was supposed to testify. The night before I was set to appear in court, my protective detail tried to kill me. Turns out half of them were on the cartel's payroll. Jesus, Jess breathed. I got lucky. Made it out, went into hiding on my own because I couldn't trust anyone official. The people I'd been investigating made sure my testimony disappeared. Made sure I disappeared. As far as the world knows, I died in a car accident. But you didn't. But I didn't. I became Maya Carter, diner manager. Nobody important. She laughed bitterly. Worked great until tonight. Isabella was watching her with something like admiration. You survived. That takes strength. Or cowardice. I ran instead of fighting. You were alone, hunted, with nowhere to turn. Running was the intelligent choice. Isabella stood, small but somehow formidable. But you are not alone anymore. And this time, we have something they want. Which means we have leverage. Leverage doesn't stop bullets. No, but it changes the terms of engagement. Isabella smiled, and for a moment Maya saw the woman she must have been in her youth. Fierce, clever, dangerous. They need this drive intact, which means they cannot simply storm in and kill us all. They need to take at least one of us alive. Adrian was nodding. She is right. They will try to negotiate first. And when negotiation fails, then we make them pay for every inch. Outside, the storm continued to rage, and somewhere in that white chaos, enemies were coming. But for the first time in 3 years, Maya Carter felt something she'd thought was dead. Hope. Not hope that everything would be fine, not hope for a happy ending, hope that she could fight back, that she could make a difference, that running wasn't the only option. Okay, she said, then let's get ready, because they're coming, and I am done being a victim. Adrian smiled. It was not a nice smile, but it was honest. Welcome back to the war, Maya Carter. And in that abandoned service station, with a blizzard raging and death approaching, Maya finally felt like herself again. The weapons inventory was better than Maya expected, but worse than she'd hoped. 2 AR-15s with 4 magazines each, 3 Glock 19s, and a shotgun that had seen better days. Adrian handled them with the casual competence of someone who'd spent serious time at a range, or more likely, in situations where hesitation got you killed. You know your way around these, Maya observed, checking the action on one of the rifles. My family business requires certain skills. He didn't elaborate, and she didn't push. Everyone had their secrets, and right now those secrets were keeping them alive. Jess had stopped crying, which was progress. She sat cross-legged on the concrete floor, phone clutched in her hands like a lifeline, though the screen showed no signal. The storm was killing the cell towers one by one. We should barricade the entrances, Maya said, moving to the front of the building. The service station had two main access points, the door they'd come through and a larger bay door that probably hadn't opened in years. Windows on three sides, all boarded but not secured. They'll try to flank us. We need to control the approach vectors. Adrian was already moving, dragging a rusted tool cabinet toward the front door. You sound military. FBI Academy covers tactical situations. She helped him position the cabinet. It wouldn't stop a determined assault, but it would slow them down, force them to make noise. Not that it matters much. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and stuck in a building with more holes than walls. Then we make them think twice about coming in. He tested the barricade, nodded. They want us alive, or at least one of us. That hesitation is our advantage. Until they decide the hard drive isn't worth the trouble and just burn the place down with us inside. Cheerful thought. Ideal in reality, not comfort. They worked in silence for several minutes, reinforcing what they could, checking sight lines, identifying cover positions. It was almost meditative, this familiar dance of preparation. Maya had forgotten how much she'd missed it, the clarity that came with having a defined mission, even if that mission was just surviving the next 2 hours. Isabella remained seated, her phone dark now, conserving battery. She watched them with an expression that was hard to read. Not fear, exactly. More like calculation. "You're wondering why I did it," she said finally. Maya looked up from securing a window board. "Did what?" "Why I took the drive, why I risked everything, brought all this down on my family." Isabella's accent thickened slightly with emotion. "You think perhaps I am foolish old woman, playing at heroism. I think you made a choice. Whether it was smart is kind of irrelevant now. But you want to know why." "Yeah," Maya admitted. "I do." Isabella was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of something long held inside. "I have done many things in my life that I am not proud of. Built wealth on the suffering of others, looked away from ugliness because it was profitable. I told myself it was business, that everyone did it, that I was no worse than anyone else." She paused. "But there are lines, and when I learned what they were doing with those children, when I saw the documents, the photographs..." She stopped, swallowed hard. "Some sins cannot be ignored, not if you wish to sleep at night." "So you stole the evidence?" "I copied it, took everything I could find, financial records, communications, names, dates, enough to destroy them completely." Her hands trembled slightly. "I thought I could deliver it to someone trustworthy, but everyone I contacted either ignored me or tried to kill me. The corruption runs deeper than I imagined." Maya knew that feeling, the sickening realization that the system you'd believed in was rotten all the way through. "That's why you were coming to Adrian," she said, "because you couldn't trust anyone else. Family is all we have in the end. I hoped that he would know what to do, that he could find someone clean, someone who would act on the information." Isabella looked at her grandson with something like pride. "He has made mistakes, my Adrian, but he is not a monster, not like them." Adrian had gone very still. "You should have told me sooner, Nonna." "Would you have let me do it if I had?" "No. I would have locked you in the estate until you came to your senses." "Exactly." She smiled sadly. "Some battles must be fought alone. And look where that got you. It got me here, with people who might actually help instead of selling me to the highest bidder. I consider that progress." A sound from outside cut the conversation short. Engine noise, multiple vehicles barely audible over the wind. Adrian moved to the window, rifle ready. "How many?" Maya asked. "Can't tell. At least 3. They're spreading out, surrounding us." He glanced back. "It begins." Maya positioned herself at the opposite window, checked her weapon. Her hands were steady now, muscle memory taking over. This was what she'd been trained for, even if she'd hoped never to use that training again. Jess scrambled to her feet. "What do I do?" "Stay low. Stay behind cover. If shooting starts, get to the back room and don't come out unless we call you." Maya kept her voice calm, authoritative. "Can you do that?" Yeah, I think so." "Good girl." The vehicles stopped, engines idling. Maya could make out shapes through the snow now, dark figures deploying with practiced efficiency. Professional operators, not street thugs. The Valdez cartel didn't hire amateurs. A voice called out, amplified by a megaphone, barely audible over the storm. "Mrs. Vieri, we know you're in there. We just want to talk." Adrian snorted. "Sure they do." "Let me guess," Maya said. "They want the drive, promise to let us go if we hand it over." Standard negotiation tactic. Yes, Isabella hadn't moved from her seat. "They will promise anything, deliver nothing." The voice came again. "You're surrounded. There's nowhere to run. Make this easy on everyone." "Should we respond?" Adrian asked. Maya considered it. Opening dialogue meant buying time, but it also meant revealing their positions, giving the attackers information they could use. On the other hand, silence might prompt them to move in faster. "I'll talk," Isabella said, standing. "This is my mess. Let me handle it." Before anyone could stop her, she moved to the door and raised her voice. "I am here. What do you want?" A pause. Then, "The drive, Mrs. Vieri. That's all. Give us the drive, and this ends peacefully." "I do not have it." "We know you do. Stop playing games." "I do not have it." Isabella enunciated each word clearly. "It is somewhere safe. Somewhere you will never find it." The silence that followed was heavy with menace. "You're lying!" "Believe what you wish. But if you kill me, you will never recover what you seek. And I promise you, if anything happens to me, that drive will be delivered to every major news outlet and federal agency in the country. Automated system, already in place." Maya's eyebrows rose. That was either brilliant or a massive bluff, probably both. "We can make you talk." "I am 74 years old. I have survived cancer, a bad marriage, and the death of my only son. Do you truly think your threats frighten me?" Isabella's voice carried absolute conviction. "Here's my offer. Leave now. Disappear. Forget you ever saw me. And perhaps, I will consider not releasing the information." "You're in no position to make demands." "Am I not? You need that drive intact, which means you need me alive and cooperative. But I need nothing from you except your absence." She paused for effect. "So who really has the power here?" Adrian was grinning despite the situation. "She is magnificent," he murmured. The negotiator had gone silent, probably conferring with whoever was in charge. Maya used the time to scan the perimeter. She counted at least 8 hostiles now, maybe more in the vehicles. Bad odds, getting worse. "Here's what's going to happen." The voice had hardened, lost its persuasive tone. "You have 5 minutes to reconsider. After that, we're coming in, and we won't be gentle. Your choice." The megaphone clicked off. "Well," Maya said, "that went about as expected." 5 minutes. Adrian checked his watch. "Not much time." "They won't wait the full 5. They're trying to pressure us into making a mistake." Maya moved between windows, memorizing positions, calculating angles. "They'll hit us at maybe 3 minutes, try to catch us off guard. So we have 2 minutes to prepare. Less. We should assume they're moving now." Isabella returned to her seat, surprisingly calm for someone who'd just painted a target on her back. "I apologize for involving you in this, both of you. It was not my intention to—" "Save it," Maya interrupted, not unkindly. "We're past apologies. Focus on staying alive." Jess had retreated to the back room like Maya instructed, but her face was visible in the doorway, pale and terrified. Maya wished she could offer more comfort, but comfort was a luxury they couldn't afford. Movement caught her eye. A figure darting between vehicles, heading for the building's blind side. "Contact right," she called out. Adrian swung his rifle to cover. "I see him. Don't fire unless they breach. Ammunition's limited." "Understood." More movement, this time on the left. They were probing, testing the defenses, looking for weaknesses. Standard assault tactics. "They're going to hit us from multiple directions simultaneously," Maya said, thinking out loud. "Split our attention, overwhelm our response. We need to—" The bay door exploded inward. Not literally exploded, but close. They'd rammed it with something heavy, one of the vehicles maybe, and the old metal gave way with a screech of tearing steel. Men poured through the gap, moving fast, weapons up. Maya fired without thinking, controlled bursts, center mass. One attacker dropped. Another dove for cover. Adrian was firing too, his shots precise despite the chaos. But they kept coming. Fall back, Maya shouted, already moving. They couldn't hold the main room, not against this many. Better to retreat to a more defensible position, force them into a choke point. Adrian grabbed Isabella, practically carrying her toward the back. Maya covered their retreat, firing, reloading, firing again. Her ears rang. Her eyes watered from gunsmoke. Time did that weird thing again where everything was too fast and too slow simultaneously. They made it to the back room just as the front door gave way. Now they were attacking from two directions, a coordinated assault that spoke to training and experience. Jess, get down! Maya slammed the back room door, through the bolt. Flimsy protection, but better than nothing. The room was small, maybe 10 by 12, with concrete walls and no windows. A coffin waiting to happen. But it had only one entrance, which meant only one vector to defend. Adrian positioned himself to the left of the door, Maya to the right. Isabella and Jess huddled behind a stack of old tires that wouldn't stop bullets but might slow them down. When they come through, Maya said quietly, we hit them hard and fast. They're expecting resistance, but not this close. Use their momentum against them. And if there are too many, then we're screwed. But we make them pay for it. Footsteps outside. Voices calling to each other. They were clearing the main room, making sure it was secure before pushing forward. Professional, careful, not taking anything for granted. Smart, which made them more dangerous. Mrs. Vieri! The voice was closer now, just beyond the door. Last chance! Give us the drive and we let you live! Isabella said nothing. We know you're in there. There's no way out. You're just making this harder on yourself. Still nothing. A different voice, angry. Screw this. Breach it. Maya tensed. Here it came. The door shuddered under impact, someone kicking it, trying to force the bolt. It held, but barely. Another kick. The frame was splintering. Ready, Maya whispered. One more kick, and the door flew open. Two men rushed in, weapons ready, expecting distance between them and their targets. They didn't get it. Maya grabbed the first one's rifle barrel, yanked him off balance, drove her elbow into his throat. He went down choking. Adrian shot the second one, point blank, the report deafening in the enclosed space. But there were more behind them, crowding in, and suddenly the small room was full of bodies, struggling, fighting, too close for firearms to be effective. Maya lost her rifle, pulled her sidearm, shot someone in the leg. An arm wrapped around her throat from behind. She drove her head backward, felt cartilage crunch. The grip loosened. Adrian was grappling with two men, his size and strength keeping them at bay, but not for long. Isabella had somehow produced that Derringer again and fired it into the chaos. Someone screamed. Then Jess was there, swinging something heavy, a tire iron maybe, catching an attacker across the head with a wet thud. The man dropped. Get off her! Jess swung again, wild, terrified, but effective. The attackers fell back, regrouping. Maya counted 3 down, 2 wounded, the rest retreating to the main room. They'd hurt the assault, disrupted it, but at a cost. Her throat ached where someone had choked her. Adrian was bleeding from a cut above his eye. Isabella looked shaken but unhurt. And Jess stood there with the tire iron, breathing hard, looking shocked at what she'd just done. Good work, Maya managed, her voice raspy. I hit him. I actually hit him. Yeah, you did. Saved my life. Oh God, I think I'm going to be sick. Later. Right now we need to... Gunfire erupted, but not directed at them. It came from outside the building. A different caliber, a different rhythm. Shouts of confusion from the attackers. Maya risked a look through the doorway. Through the ruined bay door she could see muzzle flashes, the attackers turning to face a new threat, their assault collapsing into defensive positions. What the hell? Adrian moved beside her, trying to see. More gunfire. Engines roaring, the distinctive crack of a high-powered rifle taking precise shots. Isabella checked her phone, and a smile crossed her face. They're here. My people. They made it through the storm. Relief flooded through Maya, so intense it was almost painful. They might actually survive this. The firefight outside was brief but intense. The Valdez cartel's men, caught between the building and Isabella's reinforcements, tried to hold their ground but were outmaneuvered and outgunned. Within 5 minutes, the shooting had stopped. Silence fell, broken only by the wind. Mrs. Vieri? A new voice, heavily accented. It is safe. You can come out. Isabella stood, smoothing her clothes with shaking hands. That is Marco. He is loyal. You sure? Maya asked. As sure as I can be about anyone. Which wasn't exactly reassuring, but they didn't have many options. Maya led the way out, weapon ready, scanning for threats. The main room was a disaster. Overturned furniture, shell casings everywhere, blood on the concrete, bodies. She tried not to look too closely. Outside, dawn was breaking, the storm finally passing. The world was white and pristine, beautiful in a way that seemed obscene given what had just happened. 6 men stood by 3 SUVs, all armed, all watching them emerge with careful attention. One stepped forward, mid-50s, graying hair, expensive coat dusted with snow. Marco, presumably. Signora. He inclined his head respectfully. We came as quickly as we could. The roads were terrible. You arrived in time. That is what matters. Isabella embraced him briefly. These people helped me. They are under my protection now. Marco's gaze swept over Maya, Adrian, and Jess, assessing, calculating. Of course. Whatever you wish. The Valdez people? Dead or fled. We secured the perimeter. He gestured to the building. But this location is compromised. More will come. We should move. Agreed, but first, Isabella turned to Maya. You saved my life twice tonight. Once from the cold, once from those animals. I owe you a debt. You don't owe me anything. Nevertheless, Isabella's expression was serious. What will you do now? Your home is destroyed. Your identity is compromised. The same people who tried to kill you before now know you are alive. Maya had been trying not to think about that, about the fact that her carefully constructed life was gone, burned away in one terrible night. About the fact that she'd killed people, she wasn't sure how many, didn't want to count, and would have to live with that. About the fact that she was right back where she'd started 3 years ago, hunted, alone, with nowhere safe to run. I don't know, she admitted. Then let me make a suggestion. Isabella stepped closer, lowering her voice. You want justice. I want justice. The drive I took contains evidence that could bring down not just the Valdez cartel, but everyone connected to them. Corrupt officials, dirty cops, all of it. I know how this goes. Evidence disappears. Witnesses die. Nothing changes. Not this time. Isabella's eyes were hard. I have connections you do not. Resources. Protection. But I need someone I can trust to help me navigate this. Someone who understands how the American legal system works, who knows the players. She paused. I need you. Maya stared at her. You're asking me to… what? Come work for you? I am asking you to help me finish what you started 3 years ago. To make them pay for what they did. To you. To those children. To everyone they have hurt. It was tempting. More tempting than it should be. The chance to actually do something, to strike back, to make the bastards who'd tried to kill her face consequences. But Maya had learned hard lessons about trust. I need to think about it. Of course. Take your time. Isabella smiled. Though not too much time, they will regroup quickly. Marco was getting impatient, gesturing to the vehicles. The sun was fully up now, revealing the carnage of the night before. Maya counted 4 bodies near the building, more by the vehicles. So much death. We should go, Adrian said quietly. He'd been silent through the exchange, but now he touched Maya's arm. Whatever you decide, you cannot stay here. Let us at least get you somewhere safe while you figure it out. He was right. The diner was gone. She could see smoke in the distance. Probably someone had torched it to destroy evidence. Her apartment would be next. Everything she'd built in 3 years, gone in one night. Jess, she said, what about you? The girl looked shell-shocked, beyond overwhelmed. I just want to go home. I want my mom. I want to pretend this was a nightmare. It was real. And they know about you now, too. About all of us. Maya hated saying it, but lies wouldn't help. You're not safe here anymore. Then where am I safe? Good question. Where was anyone safe when the monsters had unlimited reach? Maya looked at Isabella, at Adrian, at Marco, and his heavily armed men. At Jess, young and scared and traumatized. at the bodies in the snow and the smoke on the horizon, and she made a choice. "Okay," she said, "I'm in, but on my terms. No more secrets, no more lies. I want full disclosure on everything. What's on that drive, who's involved, what the plan is. And Jess stays out of it. You get her somewhere safe, somewhere they'll never find her, with a new identity if necessary." Isabella nodded slowly. "Agreed. And one more thing." Maya stepped closer, making sure her words landed. "If you betray me, if this is some elaborate trap, I will burn your entire world down. Are we clear?" For a moment, Isabella's mask slipped, revealing something harder underneath. Something that reminded Maya that this woman hadn't survived in a brutal business for decades by being soft. "Crystal clear," Isabella said. "And the same to you, my dear. Betray me, and you will discover just how unpleasant I can be when crossed." They understood each other. Adrian loaded them into one of the SUVs, the interior warm and luxurious, surreal after the violence of the night. Jess fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted beyond endurance. Maya watched the ruined service station recede in the rear-view mirror, watched the smoke from her diner smudge the clean morning sky. "Regrets?" Adrian asked from the front seat. 1,000, Maya said. "But mostly I regret not doing this 3 years ago, not fighting back when I had the chance." "You were alone then. You're not alone now." "Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts." He met her eyes in the mirror. "Longer than you think, perhaps. My grandmother is many things, but she is loyal to those who earn it. You saved her life. That means something." "And you? What do you get out of this?" "The same thing you do. Justice, revenge, call it what you will." He paused. "And perhaps a chance to be something other than what my family made me. To choose a different path." Maya understood that too. The desire to be more than your circumstances, more than your past. They drove for 2 hours, the landscape gradually changing from snow-covered plains to foothills. The storm's damage evident everywhere. Downed power lines, abandoned cars, trees bent and broken. Marco's convoy moved with practiced efficiency, taking back roads, avoiding populated areas. Eventually they arrived at an estate that made Maya reconsider her understanding of wealth. Gates, guards, a mansion that looked like it belonged in a European countryside rather than Montana. Isabella's home, apparently, her fortress. "You'll be safe here," Adrian said as they pulled up. "The property is secure. My grandmother's people are loyal." That's what people said about my FBI handlers. "Fair point, trust must be earned, so let us earn it." They were shown to rooms, actual suites, with private bathrooms and beds that probably cost more than Maya's car. Jess was put in a room down the hall, with a nurse to check her over and someone to sit with her while she processed the trauma. Maya couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, watching the sun climb higher, thinking about everything that had happened. 12 hours ago, she'd been a diner manager. Now she was, what, a fugitive again? A collaborator with the very kind of people she'd once investigated? A knock at the door. "Come in." Isabella entered, changed into fresh clothes, looking remarkably composed for someone who'd nearly died multiple times. She carried a small case, which she set on the desk. "The drive," she said simply. "I thought you should see what you are fighting for." Maya approached cautiously. The drive was indeed small, innocuous, the kind you could buy at any electronics store. But what it contained... How did you get this? "I still have access to certain systems. Certain people owe me favors." Isabella opened a laptop, plugged in the drive. "What you're about to see is disturbing. Be prepared." The files opened, spreadsheets, photographs, video files, communications. Maya started reading, and with each page her anger grew. Names she recognized, senators, judges, police chiefs, financial transfers in the millions, routes and schedules for moving human cargo, and photographs, children's faces, terrified, helpless. "Jesus Christ." "Indeed." Isabella's voice was flat. "This is what they are willing to kill for, to keep hidden. Because if this comes to light, it destroys them all." Maya kept reading, her investigator's mind cataloging the evidence, seeing the connections, understanding the scope. This wasn't just about the Valdez cartel. This was a network that spanned states, that touched the highest levels of government. And it was prosecutable. With the right approach, the right people, this could actually work. You know they'll come after us with everything they have, Maya said. Of course. We'll need protection, legal representation, allies we can trust absolutely. I am working on it. And when this goes public, when we actually move forward, the blowback will be massive. Death threats, attempts on our lives. They'll try to discredit us, destroy our reputations. I expect nothing less. Maya closed the laptop, looked at this elegant, dangerous woman who'd decided to fight monsters at an age when most people were content to retire peacefully. Why? She asked. Really? Why risk everything for this? Isabella was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of decades. Because I spent my life enabling evil for profit. Because I looked away when I should have acted. Because at the end, when I face my judgment, I want to say that I tried, that I did something right. She met Maya's eyes. And because if we do not fight them, who will? The system is broken. The institutions are corrupt. All we have is ourselves and our choice to stand or kneel. That's a hell of a speech. It is the truth. Maya walked to the window, looked out at the pristine grounds, the peaceful morning that belied the violence of the night before. She thought about her diner, gone. Her quiet life, shattered. Her carefully maintained anonymity, destroyed. And she thought about those photographs, those children's faces. Okay, she said, let's burn it all down. Isabella smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just recruited an ally in a war. Welcome to the fight, Maya Carter. I suspect it will be quite the battle. Yeah, Maya said, feeling something settle in her chest, something that felt like purpose. I suspect you're right. Outside, the storm had passed completely, leaving the world clean and white and deceptively peaceful. But Maya knew the truth. The real storm was just beginning, and this time she wasn't running from it. She was going to run straight into it and make everyone who'd ever hurt her regret the day they let her survive. The war room, as Adrian called it, occupied the entire third floor of Isabella's mansion. Maya had expected something out of a crime movie. Dark wood, cigar smoke, maps with pushpins. Instead, she got state-of-the-art technology, multiple monitors, encrypted communication systems, and enough computing power to run a small country. My late husband believed in staying ahead of the curve, Isabella explained, settling into a leather chair that looked older than Maya. He built this during the Cold War. Paranoid man, but occasionally his paranoia proved useful. Maya circled the room, taking inventory. 3 workstations, satellite uplink, secure phone lines, even a small armory behind a locked panel. Whoever Isabella's husband had been, he'd prepared for war. So what's the plan? She asked, turning to face Isabella and Adrian. We can't just dump this evidence online and hope for the best. The Valdez cartel has people everywhere. They'll bury it, discredit it, make it disappear. Agreed. Adrian pulled up a file on the main screen, which is why we need to be strategic. Identify targets who are vulnerable, who can be turned, who might cooperate in exchange for immunity. You're talking about flipping witnesses. I am talking about creating a cascade. One person talks, implicates others, who then have incentive to talk themselves. A domino effect that becomes impossible to contain. Maya studied the screen. Names, photographs, brief dossiers. You've already started identifying candidates. I have people researching. Low-level operators who might crack under pressure. Mid-level managers with families they want to protect. Even a few high-ranking officials who have expressed private doubts about the organization's direction. Adrian zoomed in on one face. This man, for instance, Carlos Mendez, Valdez lieutenant, but his daughter was recently diagnosed with leukemia. He is desperate for money, for help, vulnerable. So we exploit his desperation. We offer him a way out that protects his daughter. Witness protection, medical care, a chance to do the right thing. Adrian's expression was neutral. Is that exploitation or opportunity? Maya didn't answer. The line between the two was thinner than she liked to admit. Isabella stood, moving to a different monitor. But before we approach anyone, we need insurance. The people on this drive are powerful. They will not go quietly. We need leverage beyond the evidence itself. What kind of leverage? The kind that makes them think twice about killing us. Isabella typed rapidly, pulling up financial records. Many of these individuals have hidden assets, offshore accounts, shell corporations, investments they cannot afford to have exposed. If we can access that information, copy it, distribute it to trusted parties with instructions to release if anything happens to us. A dead man's switch, Maya said. Classic. Classic because it works. Adrian was nodding. I have contacts in the Caymans, in Switzerland, people who can access these systems if properly motivated. Properly motivated meaning paid, Maya translated. Money makes the world turn, even when we wish it did not. The cynicism should have bothered Maya more than it did. But she'd spent 3 years in hiding because she'd trusted the system, believed in proper channels and institutional integrity. Look where that got her. Fine, she said. We build the insurance policy first, but we need to move fast. Every hour we wait is another hour for them to find us, to prepare their response. Agreed. I will make the necessary calls. Adrian headed for the door, paused. You should rest. You have been awake for nearly 24 hours. I'm fine. You are running on adrenaline and stubbornness. Neither is sustainable. He glanced at Isabella. Tell her, Nonna. He is correct. You are no good to us exhausted. Isabella's tone was gentle but firm. A few hours sleep, a proper meal, then we continue. The war will still be here when you wake. Maya wanted to argue, but her body was already betraying her, exhaustion creeping in now that the immediate danger had passed. Her hands trembled slightly, her eyes burned. And when had she last eaten? The grilled cheese at the diner felt like a lifetime ago. A few hours, she conceded, but wake me if anything happens. Of course. She made it back to her suite and collapsed onto the bed without even removing her shoes. Sleep took her immediately, dreamless and heavy. When she woke, the sun was setting, painting the room in shades of orange and red. For a moment she didn't remember where she was, panic spiking as she took in the unfamiliar surroundings. Then memory returned, and with it, the weight of what they were attempting. A shower helped clear her head. Someone had left clothes in her size, designer labels better quality than anything she'd owned in years. Maya dressed mechanically, her mind already working through scenarios, problems, potential solutions. She found Jess in the library, curled up in an oversized chair with a book she clearly wasn't reading. The girl looked up when Maya entered, and the relief on her face was almost painful. Hey, Maya said softly. How you holding up? I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and this will all be some crazy nightmare. Jess's voice was small. But it's not, is it? No, it's not. Those men at the diner, the ones I hit with the tire iron, are they, You did what you had to do to survive, to protect the people you care about. Maya sat on the arm of the chair. That's nothing to be ashamed of. But I hurt someone. Maybe killed them. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. Maya didn't sugarcoat it. And you're going to have to live with that uncertainty. It's going to keep you up at night sometimes. You're going to replay it in your head, wonder if there was another way. Does it get easier? Honestly, I don't know. I'm still figuring that out myself. Jess was quiet for a moment. What happens to me now? Isabella said something about witness protection, a new identity. That's one option. We can set you up somewhere far from here, give you a fresh start, money to get established. You'd have to leave everything behind, friends, family, your whole life. But you'd be safe. And the other option? You stay. Help us. Use what you experience to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. Maya met her eyes. I won't lie to you, Jess. That path is dangerous. The people we're going after don't play nice, but sometimes the dangerous choice is the right one. You sound like you're trying to recruit me. I'm trying to give you options, real ones, not bullshit platitudes about everything being fine. Jess looked down at her hands. My mom used to say that the world is divided into people who hide from monsters and people who fight them. She was a fighter. Cancer got her anyway, but she never stopped fighting. She took a shaky breath. I think she'd want me to fight too. This isn't cancer. These are people who will kill you without hesitation. I know, but if I run, if I hide, I'll spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder anyway. At least this way I'm doing something that matters. Maya felt something twist in her chest. This kid was 22, should have been worried about college debt. and bad boyfriends, not international criminal conspiracies and life or death choices. You're sure? No. I'm terrified, but I'm sure I don't want to run. Okay then, we'll figure it out together. They found Isabella and Adrian in the war room, along with 3 people Maya didn't recognize. Isabella made introductions with brisk efficiency. Maya, Jess, this is my team, Marcus Chen, cybersecurity specialist, Elena Volkov, former FSB, now freelance intelligence consultant, and Father Thomas Riley, who despite his collar has expertise in rather secular matters. The priest smiled. He was maybe 60, with kind eyes and the build of someone who'd seen physical labor. I prefer to think of myself as a man with varied life experiences. Father Riley runs a network of safe houses for refugees and abuse victims, Isabella explained. He also happens to have connections throughout the Catholic Charitable Organization network, which gives us reach in places we might not otherwise access. And you trust all these people? Maya asked bluntly. With my life? They have worked with me for years through situations nearly as dangerous as this. Isabella gestured to the monitors. Marcus has been analyzing the financial data. He has found something interesting. Marcus pulled up a series of wire transfers. The Valdez cartel's accounting is surprisingly sophisticated. They use a web of shell companies, legitimate businesses as fronts, cryptocurrency mixers to obscure the money trail. But they made mistakes. Small ones, but enough. What kind of mistakes? Patterns, transfers that occur on the same day each month, amounts that correlate with known shipments, IP addresses that link back to specific individuals. He highlighted several entries. And this is where it gets interesting. Some of these transfers go to accounts belonging to federal agents, judges, politicians, but others go to accounts we cannot trace, which suggests even deeper protection. Deeper than federal agents? Intelligence agencies, perhaps? Or international actors. Without more information, we cannot be certain. Elena spoke up, her accent thick but her English precise. I have contacts in Russian intelligence who may be able to help identify these accounts. The SVR has extensive files on American corruption, gathered over decades. They would be willing to share, for the right price. And what price is that? Maya asked. Information. The Valdez cartel has been expanding into Eastern Europe, stepping on toes. My former colleagues would very much like to know the details of those operations. So we trade information with Russian spies. Great. What could go wrong? Many things, Elena said without irony, but the alternative is proceeding blind, which will get us killed faster. Father Riley cleared his throat. I may have a cleaner option. There is a journalist I know, with The Atlantic. She has been investigating corruption in federal law enforcement for years. If we provided her with enough evidence to verify independently, she could break the story in a way that gives it credibility. Journalists can be bought or killed, Adrian said. Not this one. Rachel Morrow. She has already survived 2 attempts on her life for stories she refused to kill. She is tenacious, ethical, and crucially, she has institutional backing that makes her harder to silence. Maya considered it. A journalist meant publicity, which was both weapon and shield. Once the story was public, killing them became pointless. The information was already out there. But it also meant losing control of the narrative, trusting an outsider with information that could get them all killed. We need more than one avenue, she said finally. A journalist for the public story, Elena's contacts for intelligence on the deeper players. And we still need to flip witnesses, people inside the organization who can testify to the truth of the documents. A multi-pronged approach, Isabella nodded. I approve, but it will require careful coordination. One element exposed too early could compromise the others. Then we plan it down to the hour. Maya moved to the central monitor, started pulling up files. We identify our targets, our approach methods, our timeline. We build redundancies into every step, and we make sure that if any one of us is taken out, the operation continues. For the next 6 hours, they planned. Marcus hacked into secure systems, copying financial records, building dossiers on potential witnesses. Elena made encrypted calls to contacts across 3 continents, negotiating for information. Father Riley drafted messages to his journalist friend, carefully worded to intrigue without revealing too much. Adrian and Maya focused on the witness list, identifying candidates, assessing vulnerabilities, crafting approaches tailored to each individual. It was grimly familiar work, the same techniques Maya had used as an FBI investigator, just directed at a different target. Jess proved surprisingly useful, her fresh perspective catching details the others missed. This guy, she pointed to a mid-level accountant. His social media shows he just got divorced. Bitter posts about his ex-wife, about feeling unappreciated. He's vulnerable to validation, to feeling important. Good catch, Maya said. We approach him as someone who understands, who values him. Make him feel like he's making a moral choice rather than betraying his bosses. Manipulation, Jess said quietly. Persuasion, Adrian corrected. The line is thin, but it exists. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, we're not much better than they are. The room went quiet. Maya set down the file she'd been reviewing. You're right, she said. We're using the same tactics. Exploiting vulnerabilities, applying pressure, doing whatever it takes to get what we want. The only difference is our justification. We tell ourselves it's for a good cause. And you don't believe that? I believe that good people can do terrible things when they convince themselves the ends justify the means. I also believe that sometimes terrible things need to be done or worse things happen. Maya met Jess's eyes. What we're doing isn't clean. It isn't noble. It's messy and morally complicated, and we're going to have to live with that. But those kids in the photographs, they don't get the luxury of moral complexity. They need someone to fight for them, even if that fight requires getting dirty. And if we become as bad as them in the process, then we've failed, which is why we need people like you, asking questions like that, keeping us honest. Maya smiled tiredly. Someone's got to be the conscience of this operation. Isabella had been listening quietly. Now she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of experience. I have spent my life in morally gray spaces. I have done things I regret, hurt people who did not deserve it, made choices I cannot undo. But this, she gestured to the evidence on the screens, this is a line even I will not cross. And I will do whatever necessary to stop it, even if that means becoming a monster to fight monsters. Heavy lies the crown, Father Riley murmured. There is no crown here, only choices, all of them bad, and we must pick the least terrible option. The planning continued into the early morning hours. By the time they finished, they had a framework, fragile, dependent on too many variables, but workable. Marcus would continue hacking, building their insurance policy. Elena would trade information with her Russian contacts, mapping the deeper conspiracy. Father Riley would reach out to the journalist, setting up a meeting. And Maya and Adrian would begin approaching potential witnesses, starting with the most vulnerable. We launch in 72 hours, Isabella decided. That gives us time to prepare, but not so much time that they can find us first. They're already looking, Marcus said, pulling up surveillance footage. I have been monitoring law enforcement channels. There are 3 active manhunts. One for you, Mrs. Vieri, one for Adrian, and one for a woman matching Maya's description. They're calling you a terrorist cell, claiming you are responsible for multiple deaths. Of course they are, Maya said bitterly. Classic misdirection. Paint us as the bad guys, justify extreme measures to stop us. Public sentiment is turning against us. Social media is full of speculation, conspiracy theories. Some people think you are innocent, but most believe the official story. Then we change the narrative. Father Riley, how soon can you arrange the meeting with your journalist? Tomorrow, if she is available. Make it happen. We need to start planting seeds, getting our version of events out there. Adrian was studying a different screen, his expression dark. There's another problem. The Valdez cartel has put out a bounty. $2 million for information leading to our capture. $5 million for proof of death. Maya's stomach dropped. That's enough money to turn anyone. Even people we trust, Elena added. Loyalty has limits when that kind of money is involved. Isabella stood, walked to the window. Dawn was breaking again. Another day survived. Another day closer to the edge. Then we trust no one outside this room. We compartmentalize information, limit exposure, assume we are always one step from betrayal. Paranoia as strategy, Father Riley said. Not my preferred approach, but practical. Practical keeps us alive, Adrian said. He turned to Maya. You should get some rest. We have a long day ahead. So do you. I am used to functioning on limited sleep. Yeah, well, so am I. They looked at each other, and Maya saw in Adrian's eyes the same stubborn determination she felt. Neither of them would rest. Not really. Not until this was finished, one way or another. The meeting broke up. Jess went to her room, exhausted. Marcus, Elena, and Father Riley dispersed to their tasks. Isabella retired to her private quarters, moving with the careful precision of someone in pain but refusing to show it, which left Maya and Adrian alone in the war room, surrounded by monitors displaying evidence of corruption and cruelty. "You did not have to involve yourself in this," Adrian said quietly. "You could have taken the protection we offered, disappeared again, started over somewhere new." "Yeah, I could have, but I'm tired of running." "Running kept you alive. Running kept me hiding. There's a difference." Maya pulled up the photographs of the children again, forcing herself to look. "These kids don't get to run. Someone has to stand up for them." "And you think we can actually win? Against an organization this powerful, this entrenched?" "I think we have a chance, a small one, but better than nothing." She turned to face him. "What about you? You've got resources, connections, you could walk away from all this. Why stick around?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "My father was a good man trapped in a bad business. He tried to go straight, to legitimize our operations. They killed him for it, made it look like an accident, but I know the truth." He paused. "I have spent years telling myself there was nothing I could do, that the system was too corrupt, that fighting would only get me killed. But my grandmother is 74 years old and she found the courage to act. How can I do less? Courage or recklessness? Sometimes they are the same thing." Maya laughed despite herself. Yeah, they are." They stood there in the growing light, two damaged people who'd found themselves on the same side of an impossible fight. Maya felt the pull of attraction. Adrian was handsome, competent, someone who understood the darkness because he'd lived in it, but she pushed the feeling away. This wasn't the time, and she couldn't afford the distraction. "We should get some actual sleep," she said. "A few hours at least." "Probably." Neither of them moved. "Adrian!" The alarm went off. Marcus's voice came through the intercom, sharp with urgency. "We have a problem. Multiple vehicles approaching. Armed men. They found us." Maya's exhaustion vanished, replaced by cold focus. "How many?" "At least a dozen, maybe more. They're moving fast. We'll be here in under 5 minutes." Adrian was already moving, pulling weapons from the armory. "Wake everyone. Get them to the safe room." "What safe room?" "Sub-basement. Reinforced. Supplies for a week. Go!" Maya ran, pounding on doors, shouting warnings. Jess emerged from her room, bleary and confused. Isabella appeared already dressed, as if she'd been expecting this. Elena and Father Riley came from the guest wing, weapons already drawn. "Marcus!" Maya shouted. "Get the drive. All the evidence. We can't let them. Already done. Uploading to secure cloud storage now." They converged on the main stairs. Adrian led the way, moving with practiced efficiency through a maze of corridors to a hidden panel. It slid open, revealing steps leading down into darkness. "Move! Everyone down!" The first explosion came as they descended, not close enough to hurt them, but loud enough to shake dust from the ceiling. Breaching charges, blowing the gates. The attackers weren't bothering with subtlety. "How did they find us?" Jess gasped. "Does it matter?" Elena responded. "They are here. We deal with it." The safe room was smaller than Maya expected, maybe 20 by 30 feet, with concrete walls and a heavy steel door. Provisions lined one wall: water, MREs, medical supplies. A weapons rack held enough firepower to outfit a small army, and multiple monitors showed security camera feeds from around the property. They watched the assault unfold in real time. Black SUVs crashed through the destroyed gates. Men in tactical gear poured out, moving with military precision, too many to count, too well equipped to fight. "We are outmatched," Adrian said flatly. "Tell me this place has another way out," Maya said. "It has a tunnel, comes out half a mile from here, in the woods." Isabella pointed to a door at the back of the room. "But it is narrow, and we would be exposed once we emerge." "Better than sitting here waiting to die." Another explosion, closer this time. The attackers were systematically destroying the mansion, room by room. Marcus was typing frantically on a laptop. Upload is at 60%. Need another 3 minutes. We might not have 3 minutes. Then we make them. Adrian pulled an assault rifle from the rack, checked the magazine. Elena, Father Riley, with me. We hold them off. Give Marcus time to finish. You will be killed, Isabella said. Perhaps, but the evidence will survive. That is what matters. Maya grabbed his arm. There has to be another way. There is not. Someone must delay them. He met her eyes, and something passed between them. Understanding, regret, connection. Make sure what we found actually means something. Make them pay. Before Maya could respond, he was gone, Elena and Father Riley following. The door sealed behind them, locks engaging. Through the monitors, Maya watched them take positions in the mansion's upper floors. Watched the attackers advance, saw the first shots exchanged. Adrian fired with cold precision, dropping 2 men before they knew he was there. Elena and Father Riley covered his flanks, their training evident in every movement. But there were too many. For every attacker they dropped, 2 more appeared. 75%, Marcus muttered. Come on, come on. Jess was crying silently. Isabella sat with perfect stillness, watching her grandson fight what looked like a losing battle. Maya felt helpless, useless, trapped underground while others risked their lives. The monitors showed Adrian falling back, bleeding from a shoulder wound. Elena dragged him behind cover while Father Riley laid down, suppressing fire. They were being pushed back, overwhelmed. 85%. An explosion took out the entire east wing. The monitors showed nothing but smoke and fire. Oh God, Jess whispered. They're 90%. Maya's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to scream, to rage, to do something other than stand here watching people die. 95. The attackers breached the second floor. Through the smoke, Maya could see them advancing, see Adrian and the others pinned down, running out of ammunition, out of time, out of options. 100%! Marcus slammed the laptop closed. Got it. Everything's uploaded, distributed to multiple servers, encrypted and protected. Great. Now what? Maya shouted. Now we run. Isabella stood, her composure finally cracking. We use the tunnel. We get out, and we make sure my grandson's sacrifice means something. We're not leaving them. We do not have a choice. If we stay, we all die and the evidence dies with us. Isabella's voice was hard, but tears streamed down her face. This is what Adrian would want. What they all would want. Maya knew she was right. Hated it, but knew it. They moved to the tunnel entrance. It was indeed narrow, barely wide enough for one person at a time. Dark and cold, and stretching into an unknown distance. Marcus went first, then Jess, then Isabella. Maya took one last look at the monitors. Through the smoke and chaos, she saw Adrian still fighting, still holding the line even as blood soaked his shirt. Saw Elena beside him, firing until her weapon clicked empty. Saw Father Riley, the peaceful priest, transformed into a warrior buying time with his life. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. I'm so sorry. Then she turned and entered the tunnel, leaving them behind. The passage seemed endless. They crawled through darkness, the sound of explosions muffled but still audible. Maya's mind raced with scenarios, plans, desperate hopes that maybe Adrian and the others would escape, would survive somehow. But she knew the truth. She'd seen enough death to recognize it coming. Finally, light appeared ahead. They emerged into pre-dawn forest, cold and silent. Marcus immediately pulled out a satellite phone, started making calls in rapid Mandarin. Isabella collapsed against a tree, decades of age suddenly visible on her face. Jess just stood there, shaking. And Maya looked back toward the mansion, now just a column of smoke visible through the trees, and felt something harden in her chest, something cold and dark and unforgiving. They'd won this round. The evidence was safe, distributed, beyond the reach of their enemies. But the cost was almost more than she could bear. We need to move, Marcus said, ending his call. I have transportation coming. 30 minutes. Where? Isabella's voice was hollow. Safe house in Seattle. Then we scatter, regroup once the heat dies down. And the evidence? Timed release. 48 hours from now, unless I manually delay it, everything uploads to the journalist, to law enforcement agencies outside their control, to media outlets worldwide. They cannot stop it now. Small comfort when people were dying for it. They waited in silence, each lost in their own thoughts, their own grief. When the helicopter arrived, unmarked, piloted by someone who asked no questions, they climbed aboard without speaking. As they lifted off, Maya watched the burning mansion recede, watched the emergency vehicles arrive too late, watched her newest allies, her fragile hope for redemption, consumed by flames. And she made a promise to Adrian, to Elena, to Father Riley, to all the people who died fighting this fight. She would finish this. No matter what it took, no matter what she had to become, she would make sure their deaths meant something. The Valdez cartel thought they'd won, thought they'd crushed the threat. They had no idea what they'd just created. A survivor, a witness, a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. They'd made an enemy, and Maya Carter was just getting started. The safe house in Seattle was a cramped apartment above a Vietnamese restaurant, the kind of place where the smell of pho soaked into everything, and the walls were thin enough to hear conversations 3 units over. Nothing like Isabella's mansion, nothing like safety. Maya stood at the window watching rain streak down the glass, watching the street below for threats that could come from anywhere. 40 hours since the attack. 40 hours of waiting, of second-guessing, of wondering if Adrian and the others had suffered before the end. "You need to eat something," Jess said from behind her. "Not hungry." "Neither am I, but we're eating anyway. Marcus brought up banh mi. They're actually pretty good." Maya turned. Jess looked worse than she had at the mansion. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, clothes rumpled. But she was functional, holding it together through sheer force of will. The kid was stronger than she looked. "Where's Isabella?" "Back room. She hasn't come out since we got here." Jess's voice dropped. "I can hear her sometimes, crying. She tries to be quiet about it, but yeah." They ate in silence, the sandwiches tasting like cardboard despite Jess's assessment. Maya forced herself to finish, knowing she'd need the energy for whatever came next. Through the open door to Marcus's makeshift command center, she could see him hunched over multiple laptops, monitoring the countdown to the evidence release. 8 hours left. "What happens when it goes live?" Jess asked, following her gaze. "Chaos, probably. News cycles will explode, law enforcement will have to respond. People will deny everything. Lawyers will scramble. Some might run." Maya set down the sandwich. "And the Valdez cartel will come after us with everything they have left. But we'll have won, right? The evidence will be out there. They can't hide anymore." "Evidence doesn't equal justice, Jess. Not automatically. People with that much power, that many connections, they know how to spin things, discredit sources, drag out investigations until people stop caring." Maya heard the bitterness in her own voice. "I've seen it before." "So what was the point? Adrian and the others died for nothing?" "I didn't say that. But we can't assume releasing the evidence is the end. It's just the beginning." Marcus appeared in the doorway, laptop in hand. "We have a problem." Of course they did. "What kind?" Maya asked. "I have been monitoring law enforcement communications. There's a federal task force being assembled, not to investigate the Valdez cartel, to investigate us." He pulled up encrypted channels, letting them read the traffic. "They're calling us domestic terrorists, claiming we fabricated evidence that the mansion attack was a bombing we carried out ourselves. That's insane, that is narrative control. And it is working. Social media is full of speculation about extremist cells, anti-government conspiracies. By the time our evidence releases, they will have already poisoned the well." Maya felt rage building, hot and bitter. "So we're just supposed to take it? Let them paint us as the villains?" "No, we adapt." Marcus sat, pulled up another screen. The journalist, Rachel Morrow. Father Riley had scheduled a meeting with her before the attack. "I made contact, told her he was dead, but his information was legitimate." "And?" "And she wants to meet. Says she has been investigating similar corruption independently, has sources that might corroborate what we have. She's willing to run the story, but she wants to verify everything first." "When?" "Tomorrow morning. Neutral location, public enough to be safe, private enough to talk." Marcus met Maya's eyes. "She wants to meet you specifically. She knows who you are, Maya Carter. Or rather, who you were." The name hit harder than it should have. Maya Carter was supposed to be dead. buried along with her old identity. How does she know? Because she investigated your case 3 years ago, when you disappeared after your protective detail was killed. She tried to find out what happened. No one would talk to her, files were sealed, her editors killed the story, but she never forgot. Maya processed that. A journalist who'd tried to help her once, who'd been shut down by the same corrupt system they were fighting now. Someone who might actually be trustworthy, or someone who'd sell them out the moment it was convenient. "I'll meet her," Maya said. "But not alone. You come with me, Marcus. Extra eyes." "Agreed." "What about me?" Jess asked. "You stay here with Isabella. Someone needs to watch her, make sure she doesn't do anything stupid." "Like what?" "Like try to kill someone, or herself. Grief makes people unpredictable." Jess looked stricken. "You think she would?" "I think she just lost her grandson after finally reconciling with him. I think she spent her whole life in control, and now everything's falling apart. So yeah, I think we need to keep an eye on her." Marcus stood. "I will make the arrangements. Meeting is set for 10 a.m., Pike Place Market. Public, cameras everywhere, easy to spot surveillance. Or easy for them to stage something and blame us for it. Also true, but we are running out of options." He wasn't wrong. Every hour they waited was another hour for their enemies to consolidate, to plan, to hunt. They needed to push forward, take the initiative, even if it meant walking into potential traps. After Marcus left, Maya checked on Isabella. The older woman sat in the small bedroom, staring at a photograph on her phone. Adrian, younger, smiling, arm around his grandmother at some family gathering, before everything went to hell. "He hated that picture," Isabella said without looking up. "Said he looked ridiculous in that suit, but I always loved it. One of the few times I saw him truly happy." Maya sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't help, but I am." "Sorry," Isabella laughed, the sound empty. "Everyone is sorry. Sorry changes nothing. He is still dead. Elena is still dead. Father Riley is still dead, all because I decided to play hero." "You decided to do the right thing." "The right thing." Isabella set down the phone. "I have been alive for 74 years and I am still not certain what that means. I took that drive thinking I was saving children, stopping monsters. Instead, I got my grandson killed. Was that the right thing, Maya? Was his life worth whatever justice we might achieve?" Maya didn't have an answer. She'd been asking herself the same question since they escaped. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know that if we give up now, if we let their deaths mean nothing, then it definitely wasn't worth it. The only way this makes any sense is if we finish what we started. And if we fail, then at least we tried." Isabella looked at her with eyes that had seen too much, survived too much. "You're very young to be so cynical." "Yeah, well, life speeds up the learning curve." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Isabella straightened, some of her old steel returning. "This journalist, you trust her?" "I don't trust anyone. But Marcus is right. We're out of options. We need someone who can get this story out in a way people will actually listen to. And if she betrays us? Then we deal with it, same as everything else." Isabella nodded slowly. "Very well, but I'm coming with you tomorrow." "That's not negotiable. Adrian died protecting me, protecting this evidence. I will not hide while others take the risks." Her voice was firm. "Besides, I am the only one who can speak to the full scope of what is on that drive. You know the American side, the FBI investigation, but the international connections, the money laundering networks, the political corruption across multiple countries, that requires my knowledge." She had a point. "Fine, but you follow my lead. If I say we run, we run. No arguments." "Agreed." Maya returned to the main room to find Jess asleep on the couch, curled up like a child. The girl had been through more in 3 days than most people experienced in a lifetime. She deserved better than this. They all did. Marcus was still working, his screens full of code and encrypted communications. Maya watched him for a moment, wondering about his story. How did a cybersecurity specialist end up working for someone like Isabella? What had he done? What had he seen to make him willing to risk his life for this fight? Everyone had their reasons, their damage, their reasons for choosing war over peace. Get some sleep, she told him. I'll take first watch. You need sleep too. I'll sleep when we're dead. Or safe. Whichever comes first. He smiled faintly. Very optimistic. Realism, not optimism. But she did sleep eventually, a few hours of restless unconsciousness full of fire and screaming, and Adrian's face as he looked at her before going to his death. When she woke, it was still dark, rain still falling, and the countdown showed 4 hours remaining. 4 hours until the world learned the truth. 4 hours until everything changed, one way or another. The morning came gray and cold. Maya dressed carefully. Jeans, boots, a jacket with enough pockets for the weapons Marcus had procured. She looked normal, forgettable, just another person at the market. That was the goal. Isabella emerged wearing similar clothes, though she somehow made them look elegant. Grief had carved new lines in her face, but her posture was perfect, her expression calm. Whatever breakdown she'd had in private, she wasn't showing it now. Ready? Maya asked. As I will ever be. Marcus drove them in a nondescript Honda, taking a circuitous route to make sure they weren't followed. The market was already crowded despite the early hour. Tourists, locals, vendors setting up for the day. Good cover, but also good hunting ground for anyone trying to find them. They'd arranged to meet near the fish market, where the noise and activity would mask their conversation. Maya spotted Rachel Morrow immediately. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, practical clothes, standing exactly where she'd said she'd be. Ms. Carter, she said as they approached. No hesitation, no playing games. Or should I call you by your real name? Maya's fine. Fair enough, I'm Rachel. This is my colleague, David Chen. He's going to verify the technical authenticity of whatever you show me. The man beside her was younger, Asian, wearing glasses and carrying a laptop bag. He nodded politely, but said nothing. This is Isabella Vieri, Maya said, and you've already met Marcus. In a manner of speaking, Rachel's gaze was sharp, assessing. So, Father Riley said you had evidence of corruption involving the Valdez cartel, federal agents, judges, politicians. He said it was comprehensive, verifiable, and worth dying for. Was he right? He died for it, Maya said quietly. So did several others. You tell me if that makes him right. Rachel's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry for your loss. Tom Riley was a good man. I've known him for years, worked with him on several stories. If he believed in this, that carries weight. Believing doesn't make it true. No, but it makes me willing to listen. She gestured to a quieter corner of the market. Shall we? They found a table at a small cafe, far enough from other patrons to talk privately. Marcus pulled out a tablet, loaded with copies of the evidence. David Chen leaned in, examining the files with professional interest. Walk me through it, Rachel said, pulling out a notebook. Old school, Maya noticed. No recording devices. Nothing that could be hacked or traced. So Maya talked. About her investigation 3 years ago. About the money laundering she'd uncovered. About the protective detail that had tried to kill her. About Isabella's theft of the drive, the evidence it contained, the scope of the corruption. Isabella filled in details Maya didn't know. International connections, specific transactions, names of officials who'd been bought. Her knowledge was encyclopedic, damning. David Chen's eyes got wider as he examined the files. This is real, he said finally. I mean, it could be faked, but it would take resources and expertise beyond what any civilian operation could muster. The encryption signatures match known Valdez cartel protocols. The financial records align with known shell companies. And these communications? He pulled up several email chains. They reference events that haven't been made public. There's no way you could have fabricated this. So you believe us? Isabella asked. I believe this evidence is authentic. Whether your interpretation of it is correct, that's a different question. Rachel was taking notes, her expression neutral. You understand the implications of what you're showing me. If I run this story, people will try to kill me. My editors will be pressured to kill it. Every lawyer in the country will be filing injunctions and threatening lawsuits. Yes, Maya said, and you're asking me to do it anyway. I'm asking you to do your job, report the truth. Let people decide what it means. My job gets complicated when the truth threatens powerful people. Rachel set down her pen. But you're right. This is the story. The kind journalists spend their whole careers chasing. She paused. I'll need to verify independently, cross-reference sources, confirm details, build a case that will stand up to the inevitable attacks. That takes time. We have until this afternoon. Then the evidence releases automatically. That's not enough time. It's the time we have. Rachel looked at David, some silent communication passing between them. Then she nodded. Okay, here's what I can do. I can't run a full investigative piece by this afternoon. No responsible journalist could. But I can run a preliminary story about the evidence release, frame it as breaking news. Make it clear that we're investigating and we'll publish findings as we verify them. That gives us cover, makes it harder for them to suppress the full story later. And you'll publish regardless of pressure? The Atlantic has survived pressure before. We have institutional protections, legal teams, a history of standing by our reporters. She met Maya's eyes. I can't promise we'll win, but I can promise we'll fight. It was more than Maya had hoped for. Then we have a deal. They spent the next hour going through details, Rachel asking pointed questions, David copying files and running preliminary verification tests. Other people moved through the market around them, oblivious to the fact that the conversation at this small table might change everything. Finally, Rachel closed her notebook. I have what I need to start. Send me everything when the release triggers. I'll have my initial story ready to publish within an hour of that. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly. She stood, then paused. One more thing. The people who killed your protective detail 3 years ago, the ones who tried to make you disappear, you know who they were? Some, not all. I might be able to help with that. I've been investigating FBI corruption for years. I have sources, names, connections. Rachel pulled out a business card, scribbled something on the back. This is my secure contact information. After this story breaks, if you want to pursue that angle, reach out. Maya took the card, feeling something like hope trying to take root. Why would you do that? Because I've spent 20 years watching powerful people escape consequences. I'm tired of it. Rachel smiled grimly. And because Tom Riley asked me to look after you, if anything happened to him. Consider this me keeping a promise to a friend. They parted ways carefully, leaving the market at different times, taking different routes. Maya watched for tails, for surveillance, for any sign they'd been compromised. But the morning was quiet, ordinary people doing ordinary things, unaware that the world was about to shift on its axis. Back at the safe house, the countdown showed 90 minutes. It went well? Jess asked anxiously. As well as it could. She's going to run the story, has the resources to protect it. Maya set down her bag. Now we wait. Isabella moved to the window, looking out at the rain. Adrian should be here for this. He worked so hard to make it possible. He is here, Marcus said quietly. What we do in his memory. And Elena's. And Father Riley's. It was a nice sentiment. Maya hoped it was true. The next hour crawled by. Marcus monitored his systems, ready to manually trigger the release if anything went wrong. Jess paced, nervous energy with nowhere to go. Isabella sat with that photograph again, whispering something in Italian that might have been prayer or goodbye. And Maya checked her weapons, made sure they had an exit strategy, prepared for the inevitable moment when their enemies came calling. 30 minutes, 15. 5. Marcus's laptop chimed. Release initiated. Evidence is uploading to all designated recipients now. There is no stopping it. They watched the progress bar crawl across the screen, watched the files distribute across servers, to journalists, to law enforcement agencies Marcus had identified as potentially clean, to backup locations that would keep the information alive even if they were all killed. 100%. It is done, Marcus said. For a moment, nothing happened. The world kept turning, rain kept falling, and Maya felt almost disappointed, like she'd expected thunder, lightning, immediate vindication. Then Marcus's phone started buzzing, then another, then Isabella's. Then the laptop started pinging with notifications. News alerts, Marcus reported. Multiple outlets are running preliminary stories. Rachel Morrow's piece just went live. Others are following. Social media is exploding. He pulled up the feeds. Headlines cascading across multiple sites. Breaking news. Massive corruption scandal. Evidence implicates federal officials. questions about Valdez cartel operations. And beneath the headlines, comment sections filling with reactions. Disbelief, anger, demands for investigation, conspiracy theories claiming it was all fake. It is really happening, Isabella whispered. Yeah, Maya said. It really is. But her relief was short-lived, because Marcus's expression had changed, gone dark. What? She asked. Law enforcement channels. Multiple agencies are being mobilized, but not to investigate the corruption. He looked up, his face grim. To find us. There is a federal warrant being issued right now. Domestic terrorism, fabricating evidence, multiple counts of murder. They're doubling down, Maya said, trying to discredit us before the evidence can be verified. And it might work. They control the narrative, at least initially. By the time the truth comes out, we could already be dead or discredited beyond repair. Jess looked terrified. So what do we do? Good question. They'd released the evidence, gotten it into the hands of people who might act on it. But if they were arrested or killed before it could be verified, before the investigation could proceed, the whole thing could collapse. They needed time and protection. We need to get out of the country, Maya said. Somewhere they can't reach us while this plays out. Where? Isabella asked. They have extradition treaties everywhere, resources to track us anywhere we run. Not everywhere. Marcus pulled up a map. There are still places. Countries with no extradition, where money and connections matter more than cooperation with American law enforcement. Russia, Isabella said. I have contacts there, people who would shelter us. Not out of kindness, but because embarrassing American officials serves their interests. Maya hated the idea. Running to Russia felt like confirming every accusation being thrown at them. But staying meant capture, meant silencing, meant failure. How fast can you arrange it? Give me 2 hours. We might not have 2 hours. Then we make do with what we have. Isabella pulled out her phone, started making calls in rapid Russian. Maya tried not to think about how this looked, about the optics of fleeing to America's greatest adversary. But survival took precedence over perception. Marcus was monitoring multiple channels now, his expression getting progressively worse. Federal agents are moving. I am seeing communications about deploying tactical teams to known associates, to properties linked to the Vieri family. This safe house? Not yet, but it is only a matter of time. They needed to move, now. Pack everything essential, Maya ordered. Weapons, documents, anything we can't leave behind. We leave in 10 minutes. They scrambled, throwing things into bags with barely controlled panic. Maya did a final sweep of the apartment, making sure they weren't leaving anything that could be traced back to Marcus's contacts who'd arranged this place. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then on instinct answered. Maya Carter? A man's voice, professional, controlled. Who is this? Deputy Director James Whitmore, FBI. I think we need to talk. Maya's blood went cold. I have nothing to say to the FBI. I understand your hesitation, but I'm not calling to arrest you. I'm calling because I believe you, about the corruption, about the evidence, about all of it. Why would I believe that? Because 3 years ago, I was the one who tried to investigate your disappearance. I was shut down at the highest levels, told to drop it, threatened with my career if I pushed further. His voice was steady, certain. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have proof. Now you've given me proof. Maya's mind raced. This could be a trap. Could be someone trying to locate them, stall them until tactical teams arrived. If you believe the evidence, then investigate it. Do your job. I intend to, but there are people within the Bureau working against that investigation right now. People who are compromised, who will do everything they can to bury this. He paused. I need your help to identify them. And you need protection, somewhere safe while this plays out. Let me bring you in, officially, as witnesses. I can keep you safe. The last time someone promised me official protection, they tried to kill me. I know, and I can't promise this will go perfectly, but I can promise I'm not one of them. Check my record, my history. I've spent 20 years fighting corruption within the Bureau. This is what I do. Isabella had appeared beside her, listening. Maya put the phone on speaker. Why should we trust you? Isabella asked. Mrs. Vieri, I wondered if you were involved. Whitmore's tone didn't change. You shouldn't trust me. Not completely, but you should consider your options. You can run to Russia, become propaganda tools for a hostile government, lose all credibility, or you can work with me, use the system the right way, and actually see justice done. The system tried to kill us, Maya said. Part of the system did, but not all of it. There are still good people, still honest investigators, still those who believe in the rule of law. He paused. Let me prove it to you. Meet with me. Public location, your choice of where and when. Just talk. And if you don't like what you hear, walk away. Maya looked at Isabella, at Marcus, at Jess, saw her own uncertainty reflected in their faces. I need to think about it. You have 30 minutes. After that, I can't guarantee I can control what happens. Other agencies are moving, people who don't want you talking to anyone. He gave her a number. Call me. Make the right choice. He hung up. The room was silent. It is a trap, Isabella said finally. Probably, Maya agreed. But what if it is not? Marcus pulled up information on his laptop. Deputy Director James Whitmore, 23 years with the FBI. Multiple commendations. Led investigations into police corruption, judicial misconduct, organized crime. By all accounts, he is legitimate. Accounts can be manufactured. True, but his record checks out. Congressional testimony, court appearances, published articles on corruption. If he's compromised, he has hidden it extremely well. Jess spoke up quietly. What if he's telling the truth? What if this is our chance to actually do this the right way? There is no right way, Isabella said bitterly. There is only survival or death. But if we run to Russia, we become exactly what they're accusing us of being, Jess insisted. Traitors, conspirators. How does that help the kids in those photographs? How does that bring justice? Maya's head was spinning. Every option was terrible. Running to Russia meant safety, but sacrificed credibility. Trusting Whitmore could mean walking into a trap that ended with all of them dead or imprisoned. But Jess was right. If they ran, if they hid behind foreign protection, they lost the moral high ground. The evidence would be dismissed as foreign propaganda. The investigation would stall, and the children they were trying to save would remain lost in the system. I'm calling him back, Maya said. Maya, Isabella started. We need to try. If there's even a chance of doing this legitimately, of using the system the way it's supposed to work, we have to take it. She picked up the phone. And if it's a trap, if he betrays us, then we fight our way out and head to Russia. But we try this first. She dialed. Whitmore answered immediately. You're calling back. That's good. We'll meet, but on our terms. Pike Place Market, main entrance, 1 hour. You come alone, unarmed, and you submit to a search before we talk. Agreed. And if I see any tactical teams, any surveillance, any indication this is a setup, we disappear, and you never hear from us again. Understood. I'll be there. 1 hour. Alone. Maya ended the call, feeling like she'd just made either the smartest or stupidest decision of her life. This is a mistake, Isabella said. Maybe, but it's our mistake to make. Maya checked her weapons. Marcus, I need you to set up Overwatch, somewhere with a clear view of the entrance, with an escape route. If this goes bad, you get Jess and Isabella out. What about you? I'll handle myself. They prepared in tense silence. 1 hour to either salvation or disaster. 1 hour to find out if there was any justice left in a broken system. 1 hour until Maya Carter learned whether faith was courage or just another word for suicide. Deputy Director James Whitmore looked exactly like his photos. Salt and pepper hair, lined face, the kind of weathered appearance that came from decades of bureaucratic battles and moral compromise. He stood at the Pike Place Market entrance wearing a simple suit, hands visible, no visible protection detail. Either he was telling the truth, or he was a very good liar. Maya approached from behind, weapon concealed, but ready. She'd positioned Marcus on a rooftop across the street with a clear sight line, Isabella and Jess in a cafe 2 blocks away with an exit strategy. If this went wrong, at least some of them would survive. Deputy Director Whitmore. He turned, unsurprised. Up close, his eyes were sharp, calculating, but she didn't see malice there, just exhaustion. Miss Carter, thank you for coming. I haven't decided to trust you yet. Arms up, I need to check you for weapons and wires. He complied without argument. Maya patted him down efficiently, found nothing except a phone and wallet, no gun, no recording device, no tracker that she could detect. Satisfied? He asked. Not remotely, but it's a start. She gestured to a bench near the fish market, where the noise would mask their conversation from directional microphones. Talk, and make it convincing. They sat. Whitmore looked out at the market activity, his expression distant. 3 years ago, when you disappeared, I knew something was wrong. Your protective detail, all experienced agents, all with clean records, suddenly dead in what was ruled a firefight with unknown assailants. And you, the key witness, vanished without a trace. He looked at her. The official story was that you'd been killed, your body never recovered. But there were inconsistencies, evidence that didn't quite fit. So I started asking questions. And I was told to stop, not by my direct supervisors, but by people higher up, people with connections to offices I couldn't access, making calls I wasn't cleared to know about. His voice was bitter. I pushed anyway, started my own quiet investigation, found financial irregularities in the protective details accounts, offshore transfers, communication with known Valdez associates. But before I could put together a case, my investigation was shut down. Files disappeared, witnesses recanted, and I was given a choice, drop it or lose my career. So you dropped it. I dropped the official investigation, but I never stopped paying attention. He pulled out his phone, showed her files. I've been documenting suspicious activity for 3 years, federal cases that got killed without explanation, judges who made rulings that defied logic, transfers and promotions that suggested interference from outside the bureau. I couldn't prove corruption, but I knew it was there. Maya studied the files. Names she recognized from Isabella's drive, patterns that aligned with what they'd found. Either Whitmore was genuine, or this was the most elaborate trap ever constructed. Why didn't you go public with this? Because I had suspicions, not proof, and the moment I went public I'd be destroyed, discredited, fired, maybe worse. He pocketed the phone. But now you've given me proof. Real, verifiable evidence that connects all the dots I couldn't connect before. With that, I can build a legitimate case, one that will stand up in court. Assuming you survive long enough to prosecute it. There is that concern, yes. Maya watched his face, looking for tells, for signs of deception. But she'd spent years as an investigator, reading people, and everything about Whitmore screamed exhausted honesty. A man who'd tried to do the right thing within the system and been beaten down for it. Someone not unlike herself. What's your play? She asked. I bring you in as protected witnesses. Not to the main FBI building. I don't trust the security there. But to a secure facility I control, with agents I've personally vetted, people I know aren't compromised. He leaned forward. We debrief you, document everything you know, use that to corroborate the evidence. Then we move fast. Arrest warrants for everyone implicated, coordinated raids across multiple jurisdictions, all executed simultaneously before anyone can warn the others. That's ambitious. That's necessary. If we move slowly, they'll scatter, destroy evidence, kill witnesses. We need overwhelming force, all at once. And you can arrange that? The resources, the personnel, the authority? I have allies. Other people in the Bureau who've suspected corruption, who've been waiting for an opportunity to act. The Attorney General's office has investigators who are clean, federal prosecutors in 3 states who've been building parallel cases. With your evidence, we can coordinate, strike together. Sounded good, almost too good. What about the narrative they're spinning? The domestic terrorism charges, the claims we fabricated everything? That falls apart the moment we start arresting people and the evidence holds up in court. Media spin only works until reality contradicts it. He paused. But I won't lie to you. Even with successful prosecutions, you'll never be completely safe. The Valdez cartel has reach beyond what we can arrest. There will always be someone looking for revenge. So what's the point? The point is justice. The point is those children in the photographs getting rescued. The point is corrupt officials facing consequences for once in their lives. His voice carried conviction. The point is doing the right thing even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, because the alternative is giving up and letting them win. Maya recognized the speech. She'd given herself versions of it over the years. Sometimes you needed to believe the words, even when reality suggested otherwise. I need to make a call, she said. He nodded. Of course. She walked a few yards away, dialed Marcus. Status? No suspicious activity. He came alone as promised. I have seen no tactical teams, no surveillance I can detect. Your read on him? From body language alone, he appears genuine, but I have been fooled before. Haven't we all? Maya turned back to look at Whitmore. He sat patiently, not trying to listen in, not making any aggressive moves. What do you think? Do we trust him? I think we are out of alternatives. Russia offers safety, but no justice. Going public without official protection means constant running, constant fear. At least this way, we have a chance of actually accomplishing something. Even if it gets us killed? Adrian died for this, Elena, Father Riley. If we do not try, their deaths mean nothing. Maya closed her eyes. Marcus was right, damn him. They'd come too far, lost too much to back down now. Okay, tell Isabella and Jess to stand by. I'm going to see if Whitmore is actually legitimate or just a very convincing liar. She returned to the bench. Whitmore watched her approach, his expression neutral. What do you need from us? Maya asked. Relief crossed his face. First, I need you to come with me to the secure facility. It's outside the city, isolated, defensible. We'll do full debriefings there, get everything documented properly. And then we move. I'm targeting 72 hours from now. 3 days to finalize warrants, position teams, coordinate with other agencies. Then we execute simultaneously, take down everyone at once. 3 days is a long time for something to leak. I know, which is why we limit information, compartmentalize operations, move pieces into position without revealing the full picture until the last moment. He stood. I won't pretend this is risk-free, but it's our best shot. Maya stood as well. I need guarantees for all of us. Witness protection after the trials, new identities, financial support to start over. Done. An immunity for Isabella. She was part of the organization. She broke laws stealing that drive. I need assurance she won't be prosecuted. Whitmore hesitated. That's harder. She's not just a witness, she's a participant. Prosecutors will want accountability. Then we don't cooperate, simple as that. She facilitated money laundering, conspiracy to... She also risked her life to expose people trafficking children. She lost her grandson fighting this fight. And without her cooperation, your case is weaker. Maya held his gaze. Immunity or we walk? Another pause. Then Whitmore nodded. I'll make it happen. Complete immunity for Mrs. Vieri in exchange for full cooperation. Put it in writing, before we go anywhere. Fair enough. Maya made the call. 20 minutes later, Isabella, Marcus, and Jess joined them. Whitmore had produced official paperwork, immunity agreements, witness protection guarantees, signed by him and countersigned by an assistant attorney general, whose credentials checked out when Marcus verified them. This could all still be fake, Isabella said quietly, reading the documents. Yes, Maya agreed. But if we don't try, we definitely fail. At least this way, we're taking a shot. Isabella looked at the papers for a long moment. Then she signed, her signature elegant and controlled despite everything. For Adrian, she said. For Adrian, Maya echoed. The secure facility turned out to be a former military installation, an hour outside Seattle, now used for federal witness protection. High fences, armed guards, multiple layers of security. Either Whitmore was protecting them or he'd built a very elaborate prison. They were given separate rooms, comfortable but clearly monitored. The debriefing started immediately, teams of investigators asking detailed questions, documenting every aspect of the case. Maya talked for 8 hours straight, walking them through her original FBI investigation, her attempted murder, the 3 years in hiding, everything that had happened since Isabella stumbled into her diner. It felt surreal speaking freely about things she'd kept hidden for so long, trusting people in FBI jackets after FBI agents had tried to kill her. But Whitmore's team was thorough, professional, and crucially, they actually seemed to believe her. Isabella's debriefing took even longer. She knew names, details, transactions that Maya had never seen. The scope of the corruption was staggering, not just the Valdez cartel, but connections to 3 other criminal organizations, political corruption spanning 12 states, international money laundering networks touching 5 countries. This is bigger than we thought, Whitmore said on the second day, looking haggard. The evidence is solid, but the reach, we're going to need more resources, more coordination. Can you get them? Maya asked. I'm working on it. The Attorney General is read in now, personally overseeing the operation. We're bringing in U.S. Marshals for the arrests, DEA for the drug trafficking components, even international partners for the cross-border elements. He rubbed his eyes. But every person we bring in is another potential leak. We're walking a tightrope. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She stood at the window of her room, watching guards patrol the perimeter, and wondered if they were protection or potential threats. Trust was still foreign territory. A knock at her door. Jess, looking exhausted. Can't sleep either? The girl asked. Sleep feels like a luxury. Yeah. Jess came in, sat on the bed. Do you think this is actually going to work? Or are we just delaying the inevitable? Honestly, I don't know. But we're trying. That's more than we were doing 3 days ago. I keep thinking about the diner, about how normal everything was. I was worried about tips and whether my car would make it through winter. Now I'm in a federal witness protection facility waiting to testify against an international crime syndicate. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. How did this become my life? You made a choice to fight instead of run. That's how. Was it the right choice? Ask me after we see how it ends. The third day brought news, both good and bad. Good news, the Attorney General had approved the coordinated operation. Over 200 federal agents, U.S. Marshals, and local law enforcement would execute simultaneous arrests in 8 states. Warrants had been issued for 63 individuals, including 5 federal judges, 11 FBI agents, 2 senators, and multiple high-ranking cartel members. Bad news, someone had leaked. Not the full operation, but enough that the Valdez cartel knew something was coming. They were moving assets, calling in favors, preparing for war. We have to move up the timeline, Whitmore said in an emergency meeting. If we wait, they'll scatter, and we'll lose half our targets. How soon? Maya asked. Tomorrow morning, dawn raids. Hit them before they're fully awake, before they can coordinate a response. That's cutting it close. It's cutting it necessary. He looked at each of them in turn. This is it. Tomorrow we either take them down or we fail. There's no middle ground. That night Maya did sleep, purely from exhaustion. She dreamed of the diner, of the blizzard, of Adrian's face as he'd chosen to stay and fight. In her dream, he survived. They all did. It was a nice dream. Reality was less kind. The dawn came cold and clear. Maya wasn't allowed to participate in the raids, too valuable as a witness, but Whitmore arranged for her to monitor from the command center. Dozens of screens showing simultaneous operations across the country. Teams preparing, final checks on warrants, everyone waiting for the go signal. Isabella stood beside her, Marcus on her other side. Jess had opted to stay in her room, unable to watch. Final checks complete, someone announced. All teams report ready. Whitmore stood at the center of it all, looking older than his years. He caught Maya's eye, gave her a slight nod. Execute, he said. The screens erupted with activity. Doors being breached, agents flooding into homes and offices, shouts of federal agents echoing through multiple feeds. Maya watched targets being arrested, some going peacefully, others resisting, all of them looking shocked that this was actually happening. Senator Michael's in custody. No resistance. Judge Parkman secured. He's lawyering up. FBI agent Torres arrested at his home. He tried to run, didn't make it far. The reports kept coming. Successes, mostly. A few targets had fled, were already in the wind. 2 arrests turned violent, shots fired, suspects wounded but alive. But the majority were going according to plan. Valdez cartel leadership compound, someone called out. Breach in progress. One of the larger screens showed the operation. A fortified estate, multiple buildings, heavy security. The strike team went in hard, flashbangs, tear gas, overwhelming force. Gunfire erupted, brief but intense. Multiple suspects down, securing the main house. We have Eduardo Valdez. Repeat, primary target secured. A cheer went up in the command center. Eduardo Valdez, the cartel's operational head, the man who'd ordered hits on witnesses, who'd built the trafficking network, who'd corrupted officials across the country. Getting him was huge. But Maya felt no triumph, just exhaustion and the knowledge that this was far from over. The raids continued for 3 hours. By the end, they had 52 of their 63 targets in custody. The remaining 11 were fugitives, warrants active, but they'd gotten the critical players. "We did it," Whitmore said, and he sounded almost surprised. "We actually did it." "This is just the beginning," Maya reminded him. "Now comes the prosecutions, the trials, making sure this actually sticks. Let me have this moment of optimism before reality crushes it." Fair enough. The days that followed were a blur of activity. Arraignments, bail hearings denied. More arrests as lower-level operators flipped and provided additional information. The evidence Maya and Isabella had provided was holding up under scrutiny. Forensic analysis confirmed its authenticity, testimony corroborated the documents. The whole thing was building into the largest corruption case in decades. Rachel Morrow's reporting was relentless, keeping the story in the public eye, making it impossible to bury. Other journalists picked it up, dug deeper, found their own sources. What had started as one drive's worth of evidence became an avalanche of corruption being exposed. The children were found, 17 of them, held in various locations, all trafficked through the network Isabella had exposed. They were rescued, placed in protective care, given a chance at recovery. It wasn't enough. They'd been through hell, but it was something. 2 weeks after the raids, Whitmore came to see Maya at the safe house where she'd been relocated. "The prosecutors want you to testify," he said. "Multiple trials, starting with the highest-profile targets. Your testimony combined with the documentary evidence, it's the cornerstone of the cases." "When?" "First trial starts in 3 months, Senator Michaels. He's fighting hard, hired the best legal team money can buy, but the evidence is solid." "He'll walk," Maya said bitterly. "People like that always do." "Maybe, but maybe not. We have recordings, financial documents, testimony from cooperating witnesses, and we have you, a credible witness who survived an assassination attempt because she refused to stay quiet." Whitmore sat down across from her. "I'm not going to lie and say this is certain, but it's the best shot we've had in years." Maya thought about the children in those photographs, about Adrian dying to protect the evidence, about 3 years of hiding, of fear, of wondering if justice was even possible. "Okay," she said, "I'll testify. All of them. However many trials it takes." "It's going to be brutal. Defense attorneys will attack your credibility, drag up every mistake you've ever made, paint you as a liar and conspiracy theorist." "Yeah, I figured. And there's still danger. We've arrested a lot of people, but the Valdez cartel has resources we haven't touched. They'll try to kill you before you can testify." "Also figured that." Whitmore smiled slightly. "You're either very brave or very stupid. Can it be both?" The trials became Maya's life. She testified in Senator Michaels' case, spending 3 days on the stand being grilled by defense attorneys who tried to paint her as a delusional paranoid who'd fabricated evidence. But the documents spoke for themselves, and when the jury came back after 6 hours of deliberation, the verdict was guilty on all counts. One down. Judge Parkman's trial was next. He fought harder, used every legal trick to delay and obstruct. But Isabella's testimony about financial transactions that went directly to his offshore accounts was damning. Guilty. 2 down. FBI agent Torres tried to claim he was actually undercover, investigating the cartel from the inside. The prosecutors destroyed that defense by showing his communications ordering hits on witnesses, including the one that had nearly killed Maya. Guilty. 3 down. The trials continued for 8 months. Not all were victories. 2 defendants got off on technicalities, 1 jury deadlocked, and 3 cases were dismissed when key evidence was ruled inadmissible, but the majority resulted in convictions. Senators, judges, federal agents, cartel operators, all going to prison. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was justice. Eduardo Valdez's trial was the biggest. He'd orchestrated everything, built the network, corrupted the officials. His legal team threw everything at the case, but they couldn't overcome the weight of evidence. When the guilty verdict came down, Maya allowed herself to feel something like satisfaction. The children had been avenged. The monsters were facing consequences. It wasn't enough to erase the trauma, to undo the damage, but it was something. A year after the diner, after the blizzard, after everything changed, Maya stood outside a small coffee shop in Portland. New city, new name, her third identity in 4 years. The witness protection program had given her everything she needed to start over: documents, money, a cover story that would stand up to scrutiny. But this time felt different. This time she wasn't hiding from the truth. She was living with it. Jess had taken a similar deal, relocated to Colorado, enrolled in college to study social work. She wanted to help kids like the ones they'd saved, turning trauma into purpose. Maya respected that. Marcus had disappeared back into the digital world, consulting for the FBI on cybercrime cases, using his skills for something legitimate for once. He sent encrypted messages occasionally, checking in, making sure she was okay. And Isabella. The door to the coffee shop opened. Isabella Vieri walked in, older looking but unbowed, wearing elegant clothes that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. She'd aged in the past year, grief and stress carving deeper lines, but her eyes were still sharp. "Maya," she said, embracing her, "it is good to see you." "You too. How are you holding up?" "Some days are better than others. I think of Adrian constantly. Wonder what he would think of all this, whether he would be proud or disappointed." "He'd be proud." They ordered coffee, found a quiet corner. Isabella had been given immunity as promised, allowed to live freely provided she maintained cooperation with ongoing investigations. She'd liquidated most of her business holdings, donated substantial money to organizations fighting human trafficking. Penance, maybe? Or just trying to balance the scales. "I have been thinking," Isabella said, "about what comes next. The trials are mostly finished. The guilty have been convicted, but the work is not done." "What do you mean?" "There are still children out there, still trafficking networks operating. The Valdez cartel was one organization, but there are others." She met Maya's eyes. "I have resources, connections, knowledge of how these systems work. And you have skills, determination, experience fighting them. You're suggesting we team up? Start some kind of vigilante operation?" "I'm suggesting we use what we have learned to make a real difference. Legally, officially, but aggressively. Work with law enforcement when possible, independently when necessary." Isabella's expression was intense. "Adrian died fighting this. I do not want his death to be the end of the fight. I want it to be the beginning." Maya had thought about this herself. About what came after, whether she could just settle into a quiet life knowing what she knew, having seen what she'd seen. The diner had been an attempt at peace, and look how that turned out. Maybe she wasn't meant for peace. Maybe some people were meant to fight. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A foundation, funded by my remaining assets, staffed by people who understand how these networks operate. We identify trafficking operations, gather evidence, hand it to authorities who can act on it, and when authorities cannot or will not act, we find other ways to shut them down." "That sounds illegal." "Some elements might exist in gray areas, but always in service of protecting children, stopping traffickers." Isabella leaned forward. "I am too old to worry about my reputation or my legacy. I want to spend whatever time I have left making amends for the life I lived. Will you help me?" It was insane. It was dangerous. It would mean giving up any chance at normal life, at peace, at safety. It was also exactly what Maya needed to hear. "Yeah," she said. "Yeah, I'm in." They talked for hours, planning, strategizing, building something that might actually work. A legitimate front doing legitimate anti-trafficking work, with the resources to dig deeper than most organizations could. And beneath that, a willingness to push boundaries when necessary, to fight fire with fire when the situation demanded it. It wouldn't be easy. It would be dangerous, frustrating, full of failures and moral compromises. But it would matter. As they left the coffee shop, stepping into Portland's gray afternoon, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose, direction, a reason to keep fighting that went beyond mere survival. "I wish Adrian could have seen this," Isabella said quietly. "Maybe he can," Maya said. "If there's anything after, any way the dead watch the living, he knows we're still fighting, that we didn't give up. Do you believe that? In something after?" "I don't know what I believe anymore. But I'd like to think the people we love, the ones who die too soon, I'd like to think they're not just gone, that they're somewhere, somehow, and what we do still matters to them." Isabella smiled. "A comforting thought, even if untrue. Sometimes comfort is enough." They parted ways with plans to meet again soon to start building this new venture. Maya walked back to her apartment, feeling the weight of the past year, the losses and victories, the compromises and choices. She thought about the blizzard, about pulling a half-frozen stranger from the snow, about how that single act of kindness had detonated her life. Part of her wished she'd stayed inside that night, kept the diner closed, avoided all of this. But only part. Because the children had been saved, because corrupt officials were in prison, because she'd stopped running and started fighting, and that fight had meant something. Her phone buzzed, a message from Whitmore. New case developing. Multi-state trafficking operation. Interested? She should say no. Should protect her new identity, her fragile peace, her attempt at a normal life. But Maya Carter had never been good at taking the easy path. Send me the details, she typed back. Because monsters didn't stop just because you'd beaten one batch of them. Because children kept disappearing into darkness. Because someone had to stand up and fight, even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous. And because 3 years ago, she'd been saved by someone willing to keep the light on during a storm. Now it was her turn to be that light for others. The storm that had brought Isabella into her life had destroyed everything Maya had built. But from that destruction had come something stronger, something that mattered more than safety or comfort or peace. Purpose. Justice. A fight worth fighting. She'd lost her diner, her quiet life, her carefully maintained invisibility. But she'd gained something better, a reason to stop hiding and start living. The world was still full of monsters, but now Maya was hunting them. And she was just getting started.